I jolted awake from the sofa. The TV was broadcasting that Typhoon Haiwang was about to make landfall. Trembling, I picked up my phone and checked the date, June 5th, 2023. I had truly been reborn. Memories of my past life flooded back, the relentless downpour and the chilling feeling of drowning. This time, I had to survive. Time was of the essence. The downpour started tonight. I immediately went out and drove to buy supplies. Halfway there, I suddenly realized a crucial problem. I quickly pulled over. I could buy supplies, but where would I put them? My apartment on the 6th floor only lasted 20 days in my past life. I needed a place high enough up. After construction stopped on the 65th floor of the Intercontinental Hotel, who would still collect room fees, I started the car again. Destination, Intercontinental Hotel. I had to find accommodation as soon as possible. Hello, how can I help you? Hello, our company needs a hotel for long-term cooperation. Who should we contact? Soon, I was led to the meeting room by the lobby manager, Ms. Tang. I immediately looked at the prices. Ms. Tang said that the Business Deluxe suite fit our requirements. Could we try staying for a few nights? In the end, I checked into the executive suite on the 66th floor at a discounted price. The shelter was settled. Next was purchasing supplies. I drove to the food wholesale market that was about to close. The boss wanted something. The market was about to close. If he wanted a lot, he would have to come tomorrow. 1,000 each of biscuits, bread, and mineral water, and 500 each of various canned goods. I had to get everything today. The boss's wife was skeptical. I directly scanned the code and paid a deposit of 5,000. He immediately became very enthusiastic. I suddenly thought of Juan. If a disaster lasts for 1 or 2 years, these supplies are far from enough. The landlady just added 2,000 portions of everything and paid another 20,500 yuan. She enthusiastically handed me iced milk tea and guaranteed delivery to the hotel within 2 hours. With my wages settled, I still had 7,000 yuan left in my card. I decided to go out for a nice meal and reminisce about the normal world. In the evening, I returned to the Intercontinental Hotel. The delivery driver had arrived. Mr. Lin, isn't this a bit inappropriate? I sneered and asked him why he thought I was doing this. He was taken aback, then smiled and said he would arrange for a fire ladder to help. That night, the supplies were neatly stacked in the living room. I went to the supermarket and bought some daily necessities. Looking at the house full of things, I felt bewildered, but I still decided to take them. Wake up, everyone. I sent out a mass WeChat message warning about a rainstorm, and sure enough, all the replies were sarcastic and disbelieving. So I recorded a Douyin video to issue another warning and used my last bit of money to buy promotions. After showering, I lay in bed quietly watching the window, waiting for the downpour. At 2 a.m. sharp, the first raindrop finally fell on the glass, followed by a torrential downpour. I sat up abruptly, not because of the rain, but because 6 strange cards suddenly appeared in my field of vision. The cards flipped and mixed, giving me a choice. I clicked the first one, which was a tycoon card, granting me 100 million. I complained that money was useless now, so I clicked the last one and obtained the dimensional space I had always dreamed of. I tried throwing the card and successfully activated the dimensional space, turning the entire living room. All the supplies were stored away. Since the space could preserve things forever, money was finally useful. I immediately used the tycoon card and gained 100 million. I couldn't sit still. Around 2 a.m., I decided to go out and buy barbecue to test the space. Thinking about how hot barbecue could be preserved forever, I swallowed hard, opened the door, and walked into the late-night corridor. As I stepped out of the elevator, someone suddenly grabbed my arm. My husband is here to pick me up. Mr. Zhang, there's no need to see me off. Thank you for the treat, goodbye. I immediately understood that he was using me as a shield, so I cooperated and touched his face. Mr. Zhang, thank you for bringing him back. It's getting late, so I won't invite you up. Let's meet another day. The elevator doors closed, and the young lady immediately pushed me away. I angrily questioned her. Why did you touch my face? I had no answer. I shrugged and retorted. Wasn't she the one who took advantage of me first? She glared at me, but didn't say anything. After we reached her floor, she turned around and said, "Thank you," as the elevator doors were about to close. I smiled slightly. Then I found a street full of late-night snacks and went into the first barbecue restaurant, starting to order like crazy. You've ordered too much, haven't you? Can you finish it? I lied and said there were dozens of people waiting and immediately paid 5,000 yuan. The owner was immediately overjoyed. Next, I went to the grilled fish restaurant next door and ordered 200 grilled fish and a grill. I paid just as readily. In one night, I swept through all the shops on the street, spending nearly 2 million yuan. Then I started picking up the goods in batches. I pretended to be delivering goods and secretly stored the food in my dimensional space on the way. I was busy until 7 a.m. when I returned to the hotel. The barbecue I took out was still piping hot. The storage space perfectly preserved its original state. I was exhausted, but the roads were already flooded and time was running out. I washed my face with cold water and went out to stock up. The next day, the torrential rain didn't stop. I raided over 60 breakfast shops, storing all the hot food in my space. Exhausted, I collapsed on the bed and fell asleep in less than a minute. At this time, the warning video I posted went viral. At 2 a.m., I woke up on time, and the 6 cards reappeared before my eyes. I quickly browsed through them. Fu Hao was the most useless, as he had more money than he could spend. Void electricity was the most practical, as the power would be cut off in 4 days. I raised my hand and pointed to the second card, Void Generator. With power, tomorrow's goal was clear. At 3:30 a.m., I left the hotel, racing against time to stock up. The roads leading to the supply depot were severely flooded, so I drove carefully for half an hour before finally arriving at the agricultural wholesale market. The market was brightly lit, and the vendors were busy at work. I approached a vegetable vendor and said, "Boss, I'll give you 1 million for this truckload of vegetables, truck and all." The vendor couldn't resist the temptation and agreed. I immediately transferred 1 million. Then, I asked the vendor to help me contact other people in the market who were willing to sell the truckloads and all the goods together. Soon, 7 or 8 vendors surrounded me. I offered a high price, but required that the weight be sufficient. In just 1 hour, I spent 10 million to buy out all the vegetables and fruits. I had them drive all the trucks loaded with supplies to the company warehouse parking lot. After the vendors left, I moved all the trucks in the parking lot. I stored the truck and its cargo in the dimensional space. Then, I did the same thing, clearing out the meat and condiment wholesale market. Next, I rushed to the food wholesale market and saw an ice cream shop. I went in and bought everything except Zhong Shuigao's ice cream. I even called my acquaintances to order as much as they had. The owner was very enthusiastic and even called her beautiful cousin to help me buy snacks and drinks. With her help, I bought tons of snacks and drinks, as well as branded liquor from the neighboring liquor market. In the afternoon, realizing I was pressed for time, I immediately went to the electronics and electronics mall. I bought a large quantity of high-end home appliances, game consoles, and computers in the company's name, specifically choosing the most expensive items. Thinking about the possibility of boredom in the future, I stockpiled hundreds of game consoles, projectors, and hard drives full of movies. In the end, I spent about 15 million at the electronics market. Goods are continuously flowing into my storage space. My car stalled in the rain, so I decided to walk to the clothing wholesale market to stock up on clothes. The market was about to close, and walking was too slow. I had a sudden inspiration and summoned a van from my dimensional space. I drove the van into the underground parking lot of the clothing market. Most of the shops were closed. "Boss, do you have men's clothing?" I asked. "I need millions." I decided to quote 2 million for both men's and women's clothing. The boss immediately became interested. The warehouse was piled high with down jackets, cotton-padded coats, and spring-autumn shirts. I checked them out. The quality was indeed. "I'll take all of these. I need them today. Can you contact a car and driver?" I activated my superpower, increased the price, and offered a service fee. The boss's eyes lit up, and he immediately went to arrange it. Soon, the men's clothing store owner and other shop owners rushed over upon hearing the news, all wanting to seize this big customer. Don't rush, one at a time. After purchasing the clothes, I drove past a shopping mall and saw a jewelry advertisement. Suddenly, I thought I should stock up on some jewelry. I waded into the flooded mall. On the first floor, Only the Lao Fengxiang jewelry store was still lit up. Welcome to Lao Fengxiang. If you like anything, you can try it on. I walked around the counter and started ordering like I was picking out cabbages at a market. I want 10 of this and 10 of that, from the smallest to the largest size. After having a saleswoman calculate the first round of prices, I had her walk around with me on an empty tray. After 2 rounds, I bought nearly 10 million worth of gold. Then I asked her to introduce me to diamond rings, but the price was too high, so I wanted to buy several with lower prices. The saleswoman gave me a knowing look, thinking, "So you're a playboy." Having spent 100 million and with all the supplies, I returned to my hotel room, feeling finally satisfied. Checking my phone, I saw that the torrential rain had caused thousands of deaths, and I sighed slightly. Then I saw a video of soldiers delivering medicine, and I suddenly realized I had overlooked crucial supplies, medicine. In this weather, once the medicine was researched, it had to be stockpiled immediately in the hotel corridor. I hurried past the pretty girl arguing on the phone. I drove through the flooded streets looking for a pharmacy. 7 in a row were closed. Finally, I found one with its lights on, but it was empty. I didn't care. I grabbed a bag and started filling it with medicine, then scanned a code and paid 100,000 yuan. Looking at the closed pharmacies, I decided to take the plunge. I turned back and smashed the lock with an axe. My actions seemed to inspire passers-by. I heard the sound of shattering glass from next door. At 2 a.m., I sat in my car, 6 new cards appearing before my eyes. I wanted the jet ski the most, but after drawing cards, I got the fighting skill. After a busy night emptying over 20 pharmacies, I returned home exhausted in the early morning. After showering at the hotel, I collapsed onto the bed, feeling my stockpiling trip was complete, and quickly fell into a deep sleep. Around noon, I was awakened by a series of urgent knocks on the door. I couldn't see anyone through the peephole. Opening the door, I found several young people in the hallway, harassing guests by knocking on each door. The authorities had requisitioned high-rise buildings to house disaster victims, but the general manager had already coordinated a meeting to prevent them from harassing guests. I hung up the phone and shook my head helplessly. Thinking that the disaster victims wouldn't bother us was a bit wishful thinking. The torrential rains had become a global crisis, with shortages of supplies and widespread famine imminent. I realized that in this dangerous situation, self-preservation was crucial. So, I decisively used my martial arts cards. Countless pieces of knowledge flooded my mind, but my body couldn't keep up with the techniques. A clever spinning kick caught me in the groin, making me wince. I knew I had to train, so I started setting up my room for long-term training. Just then, there was a loud knock on the door. 3 men with ill intentions stood outside. "Brother, your room is big, and you can live alone. We'd like to share with you." I sneered inwardly. This wasn't about survival, it was blatant robbery. "Sorry, I don't accept. Please leave." "Tiger, why waste words with him? If you're not going to give us face, just throw him out." There's nothing more to say. I smiled, and then kicked out with a powerful kick. The man was sent flying, crashing into the wall. The other 2 were stunned, and then shouted, "Attack!" I dodged and landed a powerful right punch on Ping. The man with the head was in pain, collapsing to the ground near his liver. A muscular man threw a punch, which I dodged by ducking. His right fist smashed his nose. Finally, another man rushed at me. I grabbed a glass and slammed it into his face. I wanted to scare them. I grabbed his hair and kneed his glass shard-encrusted face. A muscular man pulled out a weapon and tried to ambush me, but I twisted it and plunged it into his own stomach. The sounds of fighting and the sight of red liquid terrified the others. The troublemakers scattered instantly, and the other guests closed their doors as if nothing had happened. Only 3 indifferent losers remained at the door. I had witnessed torrential rain in my past life. On the 10th day, I ran out of food. I knocked on doors to ask for help, but not a single one of the 11 households was willing to give me alms. I understand, but I'll treat the disaster victims' riots the same way. It was my action that calmed them down, but all my neighbors gave me in return was indifference. I had originally wanted to share supplies, but now that idea has been completely erased. Everyone's indifferent. Just then, the door next door opened, and a girl in a black dress came out. "Are you all right?" "I'm fine, thank you." I kicked the man on the ground and told him to get lost. Their resentful looks as they left made me wary. "I'll testify for you, you acted in self-defense." I told him that the police station probably didn't have time to deal with these things right now. The collapse of order was inevitable. We introduced ourselves. Xiao Xinxin was very bold and even asked if I had any martial arts training. Meanwhile, on the 10th floor of the Jinfeng building, Chunhu's cousin, Chunhua. As Chunhua listened to his subordinate's report with a grim face, his anger exploded upon seeing the tragic state of his cousin Chunhu and the other two. He roared, ordering men to find a boat and take them to the hospital. Hu Ji's injuries were too severe. He needed to go to the hospital immediately, or he wouldn't survive. Chunhua punched the elevator wall, leaving a fist mark, then turned and ran to find a boat, vowing to settle scores. I returned to my room and reflected on today's events. It made me realize that natural disasters are terrible, but the human heart is even more terrifying. This is only the beginning. They have already begun to test the boundaries of the law. In a few days, the law will become history. But I have a dimensional space and a cheat code. What am I afraid of? If you're not convinced, just fight. Strength is king. That night, while eating, I watched the news. The torrential rains continued. The disaster was severe. 200,000 people had collapsed or gone missing nationwide. Supplies were scarce, infrastructure was paralyzed, hospitals were overcrowded, and there was widespread lamentation online. The situation was becoming increasingly dire. Chunhu finally collapsed. By the time Chunhua took him to the hospital, it was too late. Chunhua returned to the Jinfeng building, where his angry brothers surrounded him. This revenge must be taken. Which room is that guy in? I only found out later. Late at night, I looked at the cards in my hand and had just lain down when I heard a rustling sound from the door. I gripped my weapon tightly and opened the door without making a sound. Chunhua quietly entered. He saw my comfortable room and, filled with jealousy, lunged at me with a flash of cold light. I rolled off the bed, realizing I'd encountered a formidable opponent. After a few exchanges, we created distance. Our strength was evenly matched. I decided to use my card. Right in front of Chunhua, I made a delicate, effeminate gesture and flicked it. He froze. Suddenly, I charged forward, leaping high into the air and delivering a flying kick to Chunhua. He tried to block it, but with a muffled thud, he was sent flying by the immense force, crashing into the balcony railing. In his panic, he tried to grab it, but it was too late. He plummeted to the ground. I won, but the card's effect still lasted for nearly an hour. Full of energy and wide awake, I ran on the treadmill late at night to burn off the fatigue. Even after showering, I still didn't want to sleep. I went to the balcony and noticed the light was on in apartment 6689 next door. Xiao Xinxin was starving and desperate. "Hey, still awake? Want to grab a drink? You have alcohol? Do you have any food? We can't just drink alone." I pushed my food cart and knocked on her door. The rich aroma of hot pot instantly wafted out, with slices of beef, lamb, and shrimp filling the coffee table. Xiao Xinxin was completely shocked. We raised our glasses and clinked them together, sharing a rare feast in this apocalyptic night. On the 4th day of the torrential rain, Xiao Xinxin and I were in a hotel suite. While eating hot pot and drinking, I said, "The luckiest thing that happened to me in Jinling was meeting you." "Thank you." We drank more and more enthusiastically, chatting about our aesthetics until we fell asleep in each other's arms. Early the next morning, Zhang Junjie braved the rain and took a speedboat to the Jinfeng building to deliver supplies to Xiao Xinxin. The 2nd floor of the building was crowded with hungry disaster victims, and the smell was unbearable. Zhang Junjie looked disgusted. His knocking woke us up. Xiao Xinxin and I hurriedly got up, our foreheads bumping together. I went to open the door, shirtless. There stood Zhang Junjia with a backpack. His face was green. "You're here. Why bring so much stuff?" "I'll help you carry it." I pulled Xiao Xinxin into my arms to thank Zhang Junjia for the food, then started shooing him away. "Xinxin, come with me. My villa is safe. We've stocked up on lots of supplies." "What about your wife?" Zhang Junjia's heartfelt confession instantly crumbled. I coldly pushed him out of the room. We went to the second-floor stairwell. I shoved the backpack back into his hands and warned him not to pretend to be a good guy. Suddenly, several disaster victims rushed out and tackled Zhang Junjia, grabbing the backpack. In the struggle, he rolled down the stairs. Zhang Junjia struggled underwater, but was repeatedly knocked back and soon passed out. I coldly watched this cruel scene. Under the natural disaster, humanity and order were. After a brief moment of disorientation following the collapse, I realized that Zhang Junjia's speedboat was now unclaimed. I found the white speedboat, started it, and tried to drive it. I quickly mastered the maneuver. After the test drive, I drove the speedboat to a concealed spot and stored it in my dimensional space. On the morning of the fourth day, I returned to the Jinfeng building. The disaster victims looked at me strangely, but seemed to look down on me. I returned to the 66th floor. The corridor was crowded with panicked guests. The hotel had stopped providing services, and communication with the outside world was cut off. After tidying up my room, I went to the balcony and called over my neighbor, Xiao Xinxin. She looked unwell and was clearly frightened. "Lin Xia," I was a little scared. "I had just gone out and heard all sorts of bad news. Why don't you come and stay with me? We can look after each other." Xiao Xinxin hesitated for a moment, but then agreed. She had a good impression of me, and having a man by her side made her feel more at ease. So, I welcomed my first roommate. As soon as Xiao Xinxin arrived, she told me that there were people organizing self-rescue upstairs and that we should wait and see. The lower floors were full of disaster victims, and official supplies could no longer be provided normally. Xiao Xinxin understood the severity of the situation. Her biggest concern was food. I assured her that she wouldn't go hungry. The atmosphere became somewhat awkward. While Xiao Xinxin was scrolling through her phone, she suddenly discovered. In the video I posted before, "Lin Xia, you've been reborn. Is it real or just a gimmick?" I admitted I was reborn. Xiao Xinxin excitedly asked a bunch of questions, which I answered one by one. Just then, the air conditioner beeped and shut off. I knew the toughest time had begun. The power outage had a huge impact, but it wasn't a problem for me. I immediately took out the void generator, connected it to the extension cord, and then conjured up a cabinet air conditioner out of thin air and installed it. Xiao Xinxin was already speechless with shock. After finishing, I prepared 3 dishes and a soup for lunch. Xiao Xinxin was already used to it and guessed my secret. "Don't worry, I'm not stupid. I won't tell anyone. I'm sticking with you." I emphasized that we must keep a low profile. After the residents on the upper floors couldn't hold on any longer and were evacuated, we could live in peace. However, what we didn't know was that the couple in the next room had already smelled the aroma of our food. "Honey, have you?" I smelled a fragrance, like chicken soup. On the 4th day of the torrential rain, after lunch in our hotel room, Xiao Xinxin and I went out to scout things out. I understood his intentions and didn't stop him, handing him a walkie-talkie. When Xiao Xinxin left, the corridor was filled with worried people. He learned that someone was leading the formation of a self-rescue team, with a meeting scheduled for 3 p.m. on the 88th floor. When he returned, Xiao Xinxin told me about the situation downstairs. I didn't want to get involved, but people's hearts are more terrifying than floods. I needed to know what they were planning. So, that afternoon, we set off for the 88th floor. It was a 21-story climb. By the time we reached the 74th floor, I was drenched in sweat, but Xiao Xinxin was in much better shape. "You're not strong enough," he said. You need to work on your strength. You'll regret not having enough when you need it. We arrived at the 88th floor meeting room ahead of time. A group of people had already gathered there. A man in his 30s walked in, surrounded by people. His name was Su Wei-chan. He succinctly explained the team. After the meeting about the rules and purpose of building a self-rescue team, the meeting room turned into a job fair, and we were approached by several teams. At this moment, Xiao Xinxin tugged at me, and I looked in the opposite corner. A young woman was holding a 15 or 16-year-old girl in her arms, her face full of vigilance. I heard the three young men hurling insults at them. My anger flared up, and I was about to step forward to stop them, but then I stopped. I could save them, but what would happen afterward? Would we have to support them forever? Were there enough supplies for 4 people? I fell into deep hesitation. I never considered myself kind, but when I saw that helpless mother and daughter being coerced, anger instinctively surged up. Get out of my way. The girl's resistance enraged the other party. The mother's voice was almost pleading for her daughter. I'll do anything for you. Just please let my daughter go. She's only 16. Seeing the people around me getting restless, I steeled my heart and walked over. I wanted to save them. This was the reason. Fine, they already have a team. Xiao Xinxin stepped forward to protect the mother and daughter, but the matter wasn't over. 2 more men stepped out from the crowd. Dude, isn't it a bit much to have 3 beauties all to yourself? I understood their purpose. Women, beautiful women, have become trouble in the apocalypse. At that moment, I realized that a peaceful resolution was impossible. One must be ruthless and stand firm. Amidst the onlookers, I suddenly stepped forward. A cold light flashed, and red liquid shot into the air. The scene instantly descended into chaos. The 3 men were so frightened that they knelt down and begged for mercy, their pants soaked. My gaze shifted to Su Wei-chan and the man behind her who had stepped out from the crowd. The real trouble had arrived. You've gone a bit too far. Now you can choose to leave, but only you. I didn't answer, but simply wiped my anger with the clothes of the kneeling man. Su Wei-chan frowned, turned, and left. He left Guijing behind. A great battle was about to break out. Xiao Xinxin protected the mother and daughter and stepped back. Filled with regret, Guijing struck first, his fist aimed at my face. I reacted quickly, and the 2 exchanged blows, each landing with a brutal thud. Xiao Xinxin knew this was no longer just about saving the mother and daughter. Our fates were tied to this battle. In the conference room, my fight with Guijing began. His attacks were simple and effective, the wind howling as he punched. With my superior reflexes, I always anticipated his moves. After dozens of rounds, we were both injured. I gasped for breath, knowing I couldn't win alone, so I used my spatial abilities. In Guijing's vision, a truck cab appeared and disappeared out of thin air. He froze. In that instant, my weapon pierced his chest. Guijing fell. Lin Xia, why don't you become the captain of the self-rescue team? Consider this mother and daughter a bonus. I coldly refused. Just as I was considering whether to attack, a warning came from behind. I turned and saw 2 people rushing towards me. I pulled Xiao Xinxin aside. A fruit-shaped weapon pierced my left shoulder. My eyes flashed, and I countered with a cooking utensil, finishing them off. This was 5 strikes. The carpet was stained red with blood. I looked at Xiao Xinxin, and the defeat in her eyes subsided. I took Xiao Xinxin away from the mother and daughter and the young man. Luo Yuan followed. When we went downstairs, my wound hurt terribly. Luo Yuan offered to carry me back to the 66th floor. I settled them in temporarily and then went back to my room. That afternoon, in my room, Xiao Xinxin was going to help me treat my wound. It hurt a lot when she cleaned it. Xiao Xinxin hesitated for a moment, then turned my body to face her. She then took my hand and placed it on her leg. Her voice was so soft that it was almost inaudible. She said that this would distract her and reduce the pain. Then she quickly continued to treat the wound. And you know what? This method really worked. Of course, the act still had to be performed. On the evening of the 4th day of the rainstorm, Xiao Xinxin helped me treat my wound. Have you touched it enough? I awkwardly withdrew my hand and praised her for her professional bandaging. She had been a volunteer in the school's medical service. Afterwards, I seriously asked Xiao Xinxin the question that had been bothering me. How to deal with the 3 new mother and daughter next door when supplies were limited. I can't provide for them unconditionally. Anyway, whatever decision you make, I'll support you. In the evening, I delivered a small amount of food to my mother next door. Her eyes were wary, but she was also wavering. At the same time, Su Wei-chan was organizing the survivors to move to lower floors. The stairwell was crowded with desperate disaster victims. She noticed a security guard acting suspiciously. Her intuition told her that this person knew something. Under Su Wei-chan's questioning and promises, the security guard finally revealed a key piece of information. The security guard said he knew where there was food, room 6688 on the 6th floor. Late at night, a group of people were gathered around a brazier in the office on the 6th floor, plotting. They decided to go up and rob it. To survive, they had to fight and be ruthless. At 2 a.m., I lay on the sofa in room 6688, looking at the card floating in front of me and smiling. It was a card called Extreme Physique, which could permanently improve physical fitness to the limit. Wounds were healing rapidly, and strength, agility, and reaction time had all reached unprecedented levels. The unprecedented peak feeling was absolutely exhilarating, but danger was creeping up from downstairs. At 4 a.m., I suddenly woke up in the stairwell. My keen senses alerted me to unusual noises. Could it be Su Wei-chan's group? I rolled over, glanced at the sleeping Xiao Xinxin, grabbed a dagger, and went to the door. There were more than one person outside. The room wasn't the best spot. The narrow corridor was more suitable for dealing with multiple people. I decisively opened the door and stepped out. The torchlight flickered, and everyone stopped in their tracks. You were sent by Su Wei-chan? We don't know Su Wei-chan. We only know there's food in your room. The other party didn't answer, just stared at me menacingly. Then, with a shout of attack, more than 20 people pounced on me. I remained calm. In a width of just over 2 meters, I could only face a maximum of 4 people at a time. Their movements were full of flaws in my eyes, and I instantly killed 4. Seeing this, the remaining 20 people took a few steps back, their faces showing fear. But there was nowhere to retreat, and they pounced again. With 4 lives in my hands, my killing intent surged. I smiled slightly and charged forward. Darkness enveloped everything, and silence reigned. In the corridor of the 66th floor, only I stood, alone with a dagger. The weapon incident was clearly the work of the hypocrite. It's not my style to let a grudge go unpunished. This grudge must be settled. This morning, the security guards and residents of rooms 6, 8, and 9 were shocked by the horrific scene in the corridor. I immediately confessed that I killed the person. Luo Yuan, you'll have to go downstairs and ask around to see if anyone understands electrical circuits. I graduated with an electrical engineering degree. What's wrong? I want to restore power to some equipment. If you can find a generator and gasoline, can you do that? You should be able to find an emergency power station so you can selectively restore power to the equipment. Lin Xia, can my mom and I help you with anything? You should also help Luo Yuan find an emergency power station as soon as possible. I handed over the walkie-talkie. After finishing my meal, I started searching. Call me if you encounter any problems. I'll get there as quickly as possible. The 66th floor is too high to stay on, but I don't plan to move down. An upward-facing room would be better, like the presidential suite on the 90th floor. If we can restore an elevator, the problem of going up and down will be solved. My generator has enough power. At the same time, Su Wei-chan was giving an emotional speech among the disaster victims in the second-floor lobby, stirring their hearts. Suddenly, he saw the security guard who participated in the attack last night staggering out of the stairwell. "Brother, why did you come down? Didn't you go to the 66th floor? It's terrifying. The corridor on the 66th floor is full of collapsed people." Su Wei-chan's heart sank. More than 20 people failed. Am I still alive? He immediately thought, if I hadn't collapsed, they would definitely have guessed it was him. Evidence. These days, evidence is useless. He turned back to the crowd and began to organize the disaster victims to find tools to make floating boards. At the same time, we found the emergency power room on the 74th floor. Luo Yuan confirmed that the power supply could be controlled here. If I want to supply power to the wall sockets and air conditioners on the 90th floor, is that possible? It should be possible. I need time to find the wiring and connect it to the emergency power supply system. Next is the elevator access issue. Luo Yuan can set blind floors, but he doesn't understand how to crack the card swiping system. My laptop is out of power. Otherwise, I could try to crack the encryption algorithm. I was overjoyed. Luo Yuan's work on the power supply and Su Qingyue's solution to the control system are a timely help. Back in room 6688, Xiao Xinxin was also busy. She was marking the possible locations where supplies could be found on the map. Downstairs, Su Wei-chan had successfully incited the disaster victims. He portrayed himself as a pillar of strength, and at the same time, he intentionally spread the news so that everyone would know. On the 66th floor, there was a selfish hoarder of supplies. The seeds of hatred had been sown. Su Wei-chan knew that if I dared to go down, I would have to face them. He didn't know what I was doing, but he was certain that when we met again, it would be the time for reckoning. Luo Yuan had completed the line modification. The good news was that the 90th floor and the freight elevator would soon be powered up, but the bad news was that the tap water was cut off, and murky sewage was flowing out, making bathing a major problem. Power was restored, and the freight elevator started working. Su Qingyue quickly connected to the elevator control system. Okay, now only specific room cards can use this elevator. We took the elevator to the 90th floor. The doors of the 3 luxurious presidential suites were all open. I was shocked by the size and luxury of the suites, while Su Qingyue seemed used to it. Seeing the cameras, I asked Luo Yuan about the monitoring system and learned that the monitoring room was on the 2nd floor of the parking lot. Luo Yuan and I immediately took the freight elevator down to the 2nd floor. The corridor was empty. The monitoring room equipment was stopped. These 2 cabinets were full of monitoring hosts. Should we move them all? We moved the necessary equipment. After Luo Yuan left, I put all the remaining equipment into the dimensional space. In the corridor, we saw ships in the distance outside the building, and the figures on the ships were blurry. It was evening. The 5 of us moved into a suite on the 90th floor. The central air conditioning brought a long-awaited coolness. I seriously raised the issue of the water outage and emphasized the preciousness of food, demanding that everyone contribute their value. I offered to set up a server, build a local area network, and connect the monitoring system. I agreed to his plan and asked Su Man to assist the others in leaving. What could Xiao Xinxin do? My major was useless now. I jokingly asked him to be in charge of warming the bed. Unexpectedly, after serious consideration, he nodded and agreed. He emotionally explained that this was the first time he had made a decision for himself and firmly believed it was the most romantic thing. I was moved and got up, picking him up in my arms. He wrapped his arms around my neck. I carried him straight to the bedroom. At that moment, I knew an era had ended. On the 5th night, at 7 p.m., Xiao Xinxin and I got up to eat, feeling hungry. After dinner, Xiao Xinxin endured the pain to wash the dishes. I quietly put the dishes into my spatial storage. It's too early to sleep now. Let's watch a movie. I want to watch The Legend of 1900. I found a USB drive, turned off the lights, and we snuggled on the sofa, enjoying the rare peace. Meanwhile, the refugees on the 2nd floor, their hearts heavy with worry, searched for supplies on a floating platform that hadn't returned. Suddenly, a child pointed into the distance and shouted. Everyone saw a point of light, and a speedboat rapidly approached. Ma Junfei and Li Duo disembarked, bringing food and their rescued companions. They returned to the building. Ma Junfei distributed biscuits, and Su Weichan immediately saw an opportunity to leave. Two brothers, do you have a refuge base? Can you take me with you? If not today, I'll bring some more food tomorrow. I'll ask the boss if he can accept you. What's the secret you mentioned, brother? There were also a few people hiding on the 66th floor of the building who had stockpiled a lot of food. There were also 3 pretty young girls. Late at night, the sound of raindrops pattered. I woke up on time. 6 cards floated before my eyes. For the first time, skill cards appeared. I decisively chose illusion disguise. I quietly slipped into the bathroom and used my mind to release the skill in front of the mirror. The person in the mirror became Xiao Xinxin. I reached out and touched her finger, passing through the light and shadow. A minute later, the disguise was gone. It was just a light and shadow effect, not a real gender reassignment. I quietly climbed back into bed and continued sleeping. Outside, the crisis was. As the 6th day quietly approached, Lu Yuan was the first to get up and headed straight to the top floor to deal with the water tank. Su Man and her daughter also began their work. They were looking for the signal transmitter. Seeing my companions busy, I decided to go and meet Su Weichai. All the disaster victims had gathered on the 2nd floor. Su Weichai was organizing people. Lin Xia, what are you doing here? The crowd, incited by him, surrounded me, shouting and cursing. Suddenly, 3 sharp weapons were thrust out from the crowd, aimed directly at my vitals. I instantly counterattacked. 1 person fell, another lost a wrist, and the scene fell silent. Was there any other way? Hypocritical Zen. Just then, there was a commotion outside the window. Ma Junfei and Li Duo stormed in with guns. Without saying a word, they opened fire to disperse the crowd and ordered them to separate by age. Yanshi knelt down and begged Ma Junfei to protect her younger brother, but it was no use. Ma Junfei pointed his gun at the child. Yanshi rushed forward in despair. Gunshots rang out, and Yanshi was shot and fell. I couldn't wait any longer. I instantly saved the child. The dagger slipped from my hand and precisely pierced Ma Junfei's thigh. Taking advantage of his pain and loss of balance, I seized his gun and held the dagger to his throat. Brother, not bad, right? Interested in joining us? Not interested. Li Duo pointed his weapon at the crowd, trying to recruit me. But I only cared about their purpose in capturing people. As long as you're willing to join us, you're one of us. I pressed them about their purpose. Li Duo revealed it was to salvage an underwater supply vehicle. I looked at Su Weichan next to Li Duo, indicating my dislike for him. Li Duo instantly understood. Weapon fire rang out, and the fake cicada fell. I took advantage of the situation and rushed towards Li Duo. The next second, my relay was against Li Duo's neck. He surrendered and confessed the base information. After processing Li Duo, I saw the sightseeing boat and tried to escape. I immediately chased after it, jumped onto the boat, subdued the driver, and steered the boat back to the platform. Then I gave everyone a choice. Most people rushed towards the boat, wanting to escape, but I didn't care about their fate. Suddenly, a scream came from behind. I turned around and saw that the overloaded boat had completely capsized. I didn't go to help. I turned around and went back to the 2nd floor of the building. I found the injured Yanshi and his brother. Thank you for saving our lives. I helped Yanshi to the 3rd floor to rest, and then went back to the 99th floor to find Xiao Xian. I decided to have Xiao Xinxin, who had first aid training, take charge of the medical care. He immediately started preparing medicine. Soon, we returned to the 3rd floor with the first aid kit. Xiao Xinxin began to treat Yanshi's wounds. Sister, you're so beautiful. Yanshi wanted to thank me again, but I interrupted him. He had already secretly decided to repay this kindness. When treating Yanshi's wounds, he didn't say a word, only frowned slightly. My brother is a boxing coach. He's very good. He's won awards all over the country. I smiled and patted Chengzi's head. Yin Shi smiled awkwardly. After settling them in, I deliberately hid some biscuits and water. Qingzi, as long as you promise not to tell anyone about them, they will come back. Back on the 90th floor, my eyelids twitched. I felt that the crisis was not over yet. The most likely threat came from the private base in Jinan Building. So I called Luo Yuan over and threw a submachine gun in front of him. Brother Lin, where did you get this? Are we going out to rob supplies? I explained the conflict during the day and decided to go with him to the 4th floor to guard and prevent the spread of the virus. In the evening, Jinan Building was brightly lit. Supplies were being moved into the conference room. Brother Feng, Ma Junfei, and Li Duo Su Feng frowned as he went to Jin Feng Building to pick up the laborers, but they hadn't returned all day. The others in the office started gossiping. Parker JB had encountered someone who didn't know their place and just shot them all. You re not happy staying in a hotel after clearing out the disaster victims? Are you stupid? The hotel's on the 45th floor. Are you going to climb up on 3 legs? The two were about to start arguing when Su Feng raised his hand to stop them. He decided to send someone to scout the area around Jin Feng tomorrow before deciding on the next move. Meanwhile, Luo Yuan and I, armed, arrived at the 4th floor defense point. The night was deep, and danger was quietly brewing beneath the surface. At 2 a.m., I woke up on time. Luo Yuan was peering out the window, observing the outside. I looked at the 6 cards in front of me. This time, there were gift packs and skill cards, which surprised me. I chose White Streak in the Waves. Now that the outside world was a vast ocean, underwater skills were very useful. Brother Lin, you're awake. I sensed Luo Yuan had something to say, so I directly asked him if he wanted to ask about the generator. Actually, I'm an alien, and Luo Yuan actually believed me and swore to keep my secret. I couldn't hold back and burst into laughter. As dawn broke, we noticed a white speedboat moored beside a building in the distance. Someone was observing us. The enemy had found us. I coldly instructed Luo Yuan on how to deal with it, then headed downstairs. Early in the morning, Lei Mingqing led 6 men in 2 speedboats to the 2nd floor platform of the Jinfeng Building. 4 men climbed onto the platform. On the 4th floor, Luo Yuan immediately followed the plan, simultaneously pulling the triggers of 2 submachine guns. The sudden sound of weapons successfully attracted the attention of all 7 men. No one noticed me underwater. I lurked beside the speedboat, placing my hand on the edge. The next second, the entire speedboat vanished. Lei Mingqing and the other 2 fell into the water, their eyes wide with shock. They screamed, "Damn it! Where's my boat?" The water was my domain. I swam like a ghost, quickly eliminating the 3 men in the water with sharp weapons. I stored the weapons and the other empty speedboat in my dimensional space. Then, Lei Mingqing's body surfaced. The 4 men on the platform stared in horror at the rising corpse. The next moment, an even more horrifying scene unfolded. Lei Ji's body suddenly straightened up, and 2 black weapon muzzles emerged from the water under his armpits. The sound of weapons rattling rang out again. The 4 men didn't have time to move and were riddled with bullets. I surfaced, smiling, and gave a thumbs up to the 4th floor. The battle was over, but we didn't notice the observers in the distance. I defeated the 7 thugs who attacked and seized their weapons and binoculars. Brother Lin, you're too awesome. Will they come back? I estimate they'll come out in full force, but I don't trust outsiders. I can only rely on the people we have. On the 6th floor, I handed the binoculars to the little boy Yin Sheng and gave him a task. Your task is to monitor outside for any messages. If you hear anything, tell your brother immediately. I gave the walkie-talkie to Yin and put him in charge of contacting him. He was eager to do something for me. Meanwhile, at Jinan Building, Su Feng learned that his entire army had been wiped out. I don't believe it. I want to see what kind of Buddha Jin Feng is hiding. Everyone stood by. More than an hour later, Su Feng gathered most of the base's manpower and decided to personally lead the cleanup of Jinfeng. I was on the top floor helping Luo Yuan repair the water supply system. Suddenly, the machine went off. Lin Xia noticed 7 boats approaching, with more than 20 people. I immediately devised a plan. Yanshi would impersonate refugees to mislead the enemy, and Luo Yuan would provide support. Finally, I went to the back of the building, jumped out of the window, and summoned my speedboat. Su Feng's fleet stopped outside the building to observe. They circled around, but found nothing unusual. They rushed into the building and encountered Yanshi disguised as refugees on the 3rd floor. You've been tricked. They stole your boat and headed towards your base. Su Feng was suspicious and sent people to search some floors. Sure enough, they didn't find us. He began to regret bringing too many people, worried that his base would be attacked. He was furious. Seeing the enemy pointing their weapons at the refugees, I knew it was my turn to step in. I leaned out and fired wildly into the distance, then immediately ran towards the stairwell to chase after him. Don't let him get away. A group of people chased after him, but Su Feng stood still, his brows furrowed. At the same time, I surfaced from underwater on the side of the Jinan building to observe the internal situation. I dived underwater, found a damaged window, entered the building, and changed into dry clothes. Then, I transformed into Lei Mingqing and walked confidently to the 3rd floor. I only had one. I observed each floor for minutes. Everyone who saw me looked surprised, and no one dared to stop me. I guessed right, they had almost all come out. I smiled slightly and began looting from the 8th floor. In the leader's office, I found a marked map and an AWM sniper rifle. The base leader was pretty reckless. I decisively put away my weapon and continued sweeping the 7th and 6th floors. On the 5th floor, I used a trick to lure away the guards and quickly took them out. I started emptying the warehouse. Biscuits, drinks, instant noodles, rice, cigarettes, and alcohol. I looted all the supplies. In the last room, I found a large amount of gasoline. This guy was really well prepared. Going down to the 3rd floor, the ship manager, Chun Lu, saw me wandering around. I went up to him and asked, "Who the hell are you? I've never seen you before. If I were you, I wouldn't make any rash moves. If you can survive, don't go looking for trouble. Tell me how your base was built." I was genuinely curious. As I evacuated from the Jinfeng building, my unease grew stronger. I cursed myself for being an idiot. The other side might really be going to attack our base. Back on the 3rd floor of the Jinan building, everything seemed normal, but I immediately noticed a problem. Where was Chun Lu? Why wasn't he at his post? I led my men up to the 5th floor, opened the door, and the scene before me ignited my fury. Seeing Bread and Beizai's corpses, my face darkened further. I immediately ordered a full search. Suddenly, a thought struck me, and I rushed to my room on the 8th floor, weapon gripping tightly. I cautiously opened the door, only to find Chun Lu standing there. "Chun Lu, what are you doing in my room?" I exclaimed. Chun Lu stepped aside, his office chair turning around. When I saw the person in the chair, I froze. "It's you. It really is you. You know me." I excitedly called him Rebirth brother and told him I'd been looking for him for days. I showed him the prophecy of the torrential rain on my phone. The video proves I believed him all along. You wouldn't believe all those nonsensical things I said, would you? I told him it was precisely because he believed me that I was able to hoard so many supplies. Then I formally proposed cooperation. I walked to the window and told him I believed in fortune and that reborn people possess extraordinary fortune. I turned around and boldly guessed that he had a mysterious space for storing supplies. I enthusiastically described a post-apocalyptic novel and firmly believed my guess was correct. Finally, with shining eyes, I asked him if he would be willing to take me, his capable underling. I stayed in Su Feng's office, intending to try and fool him, but he persuaded me instead. You possess great. Those who oppose you will not have a good ending. His words made me think deeply. What would happen if I didn't have the people around me? Let me make this clear from the beginning. We are just cooperating. If you have any ulterior motives, don't blame me for being ruthless. Su Feng smiled and agreed. Then he gathered all the core members and announced something. Lin Xia has become our #1. No questioning is allowed. After everyone shouted, "Brother Lin," most of them left, leaving only Su Feng's 3 most capable subordinates. If you want me to submit, there is only one condition. Fight me one-on-one. If you win, I will acknowledge you as the boss. I stopped Su Feng, who was trying to stop me, and stood up to accept the challenge. The middle of the office was cleared, and Miao Polan launched the first attack, her right leg like an iron pillar, he swept across. The instant he kicked, I moved too. I lowered my body and charged at him like a cannonball. The next moment, my right elbow struck his blocking arm, forcing him to stagger back. Just as he regained his footing, I appeared behind him like a ghost, my fingers pressing against his neck. Your speed is the fastest I've ever seen. I'm completely convinced. The duel is over. Su Feng was surprised by my strength. He then led me away from the office. In the stairwell, I conjured up supplies out of thin air and returned them to Su Feng, who was dumbfounded. As a return gift, I returned to the office and took out a steaming hot grilled fish from my spatial storage. In the evening, I returned to the Jinfeng building. Luoyuan was renovated. The water pipe suite now has running water. While Qiao Xinxin was taking a shower, I slipped in too. The two of us took a refreshing hour-long bath together. Tomorrow, supplies worth over 300 million await me. The future looks bright. The flood has already submerged the 2nd and 3rd floors, and water will soon enter them as well. Dozens of survivors are trapped inside. The atmosphere is oppressive. Are we just going to wait here to collapse? We need to go out and find supplies. Rock had an idea. I always felt I had a way. And I was preparing for my cooperation with Su Feng. Brother Lin, today I'll get surveillance cameras installed, trying to cover as much area as possible. Then I sped off by speedboat to Jinan building. Su Feng was already impatient. Brother, how much grilled fish do you have left? Yesterday, we didn't waste a drop of the brine and quickly set off. The speedboat left the city center for a suburban warehouse. I saw many floating corpses. People were howling and struggling on the balconies. This was just the beginning of the apocalypse. Half an hour later, we arrived at our destination, an unfinished building surrounded by floodwaters. However, just as Su Feng was about to climb into the window, a burst of gunfire suddenly erupted. Are you all blind? It's me. Su Feng was shot in the leg, and the speedboat was about to be destroyed. I realized we had to abandon ship immediately. I grabbed Su Feng and jumped into the water, diving with all my might. Behind us, we heard the loud explosion of the speedboat. We hid behind a tree. Su Feng coughed violently. I looked at the building. The gunfire had stopped. With a whoosh, I took. We quickly ferried away from the danger zone in another speedboat. Damn it, those bastards dared to betray me. Those 300 million worth of supplies were mine. While bandaging his wounds, I analyzed the situation. Ignoring people's hearts, betrayal isn't surprising. No need to answer. You find someone to draw fire. I'll go in and take all the supplies. Good supplies. You take these people's lives. I'm going to take them. My wife is still inside. The plan is set. We must retake the warehouse. This is not only for the supplies, but also to save lives. I helped the injured Su Feng back to the Jinan building. Everyone immediately surrounded him anxiously. Brother Feng, who did this? I'll bite them right now. After the doctor treated his wounds, Su Feng struggled to his feet, his face terribly grim. If they dare to lay a finger on my wife, I'll fight to the death to make that bastard Dafei pay the price. We quickly gathered over 20 people and headed towards the target building in a speedboat. Brother Lin, Tyrannosaurus, you're good swimmers, try diving in. I flipped into the water and silently swam to the side of the building, squeezing through a broken window. In the stairwell, I encountered a guard. At the last second, I used my immobilization ability. For 3 seconds, I burst out of the water like a cheetah, instantly defeating the guard. I picked up my weapon, quietly made my way to the 4th floor, kicked open the wooden door, and opened fire, eliminating the enemies on the 4th floor. I quickly collected the supplies piled up in the hall and went up to the 5th floor. I saw the battlefield left behind by Miao Poland. His fighting prowess was astonishing. Su Feng led his men into the building and learned that Defei was holding Hong Sufei hostage on the 8th floor. We immediately rushed to the 8th floor atrium, where both sides were facing off. Suddenly, gunfire erupted and a battle broke out. I jumped onto the piled-up supplies and looked down, only to see Su Feng kneeling on the ground, holding a woman. "Oh Yang, I'm going to tear you to pieces." Ha ha ha, Su Feng, how does this feel? You asked for it. My pupils constricted. I saw Wu Yang strapped with explosives and trying to approach. Su Feng had no time to hesitate. I immediately jumped down from the side and charged towards Wu Yang at full speed. Wu Yang saw me and laughed maniacally, pressing the red button on the bomb control panel. In his final moments, Wu Yang was filled with questions and resentment. He was originally Hong Ye's capable subordinate, but due to jealousy of Su Feng and Hong Sufei, he harbored resentment. Harboring resentment, he planned an explosion to bury Su Feng and everyone else. Just as he was about to press the button, I suddenly appeared, knocked him to the ground, subdued him, and defused the bomb, throwing it to the enraged Su Feng. The crisis was averted. I immediately went upstairs to collect the most important supplies. Seeing the mountain of supply boxes, I felt incredibly satisfied. I stored them all in my spatial storage and returned to the 8th floor. Wu Yang was dead, and Su Feng, holding Hong Sufei's body, left sadly. I stayed behind to collect the remaining supplies as well, then took a speedboat back to the Jinfeng building. I took the supplies as a reward for everyone and took the elevator back to the 90th floor base. Everyone was overjoyed to see me return safely with food. "Brother Lin, it's me who should thank you. If you hadn't taken me in, I might not be here anymore." "Thank you, Brother Lin Xia." Then I proposed anew. The task is to add access control to the elevator and improve the monitoring system. "Brother Lin Xia, I understand what you mean. Leave this to me." "Okay, the main thing is that the network cable needs to be relayed. I'll try to finish it the day after tomorrow." After the task was assigned, everyone was full of enthusiasm. I'm satisfied with this team. Helping Luo Yuan lay monitoring lines, hundreds of lines to relay, is a huge project. After dark, I returned to the 90th floor and saw Su Qinghua focused on coding. Su Man immediately blocked my view with her body, her eyes full of vigilance. I awkwardly touched my nose, turned around, and went back to my room to rest. It was too tiring that day. At 2 a.m., I woke up on time. 6 new cards were floating in front of me. A card that could achieve spatial teleportation had appeared, but it required a skill and a beacon. I chose the middle card in the first row. Flipping it over revealed a spatial beacon. I got half of it. The second, early in the morning, Su Feng, along with Miao Poland and Zhu Binggang, found the Jinfeng building. "Who can tell me where Lin Xia is?" "Give me 5 packs of biscuits," someone shouted. "I'm on the 66th floor." Su Feng looked incredulous. Just then, I appeared. "Thank goodness you arrived in time. Otherwise, I would have climbed 66 floors to find you. Thanks to you for saving our lives yesterday. We want to move to the Jinfeng building. Are you welcome?" "Of course I welcome you." Su Feng instructed his men to handle the disaster victims, while I took him to see my place. I led him to a hidden freight elevator, swiped his room card, and pressed the 90th floor button. Su Feng was astonished the whole time. When we arrived at the 90th floor presidential suite, his eyes lit up with envy, exclaiming, "We're moving today." I told him not to rush, to arrange for his men to move first. Then we walked to the scenic balcony. Do you think the authorities will provide further rescue? I asked. Rescue always exists, but it only rescues top talent, like the Steel City in Jinling's Jinding Mountain. The Steel City inside the mountain shocked me. There are only a handful of such bases in the whole country. Even if there were 10 bases, they could only save 1,000,000 people. And we are the vast majority of the remaining ones. After sending Su Feng away, I helped Luo Yuan install the monitoring system, which shortened the construction period. Su Man was in charge of the search. That day, he came running breathlessly to report to Lin Xia. I felt that there was someone in room 4806. After dinner, I decided to go and check it myself. The corridor was pitch black except for the light of my flashlight. I knocked on the door, but no one answered. I pretended to leave and then returned. I squatted down by the door and listened carefully. Sure enough, I heard a sound. I got up and knocked on the door loudly and started counting down to 20. The door opened. An old man raised his hand to shield his eyes from the light. His face was full of fear. I don't have any food here. I put away my dagger and explained my purpose. The old man relaxed and led me into the room. The old man's name was Bai Jushen. He was an agricultural scholar. He was worried about his family and also about this natural disaster. He solemnly handed me 3 notebooks. They were the results of his life's research. I accepted them with both hands and solemnly promised that I would definitely hand over the data to the country. The next morning, after discussing with Xiao Xinxin, we decided to send some food to Grandpa Bai. Okay, but don't take too much at once. Give it to me in several trips. Take the food to 4806. After much persuasion, it took some convincing to convince the old man to accept the money. At the same time, Ding Liang and his men arrived at the Jinfeng building in a sightseeing boat to pick up the disaster victims. After the boat reached an open area, Ding Liang and his men suddenly raised their weapons and opened fire on the disaster victims. Within a minute, the cabin and the water surface were covered in red liquid. Ding Liang explained to his underlings that this was Su Feng's true intention. To avoid any potential problems, he ordered his men to keep a consistent story. If you ask, say that the disaster victims left willingly. I spent the whole morning helping Luo Yuan complete the final installation of the monitoring system. Around noon, all the wiring was done, and the images from nearly 200 cameras were displayed on the screen. I could set up an alarm to detect the images and send it to the server as soon as someone appeared. I added that it would be best if the alarm could also be sent to mobile phones. At lunchtime, the 5 of us met up to discuss Lin Xia's brother. I have an iPhone, and then Xiao Xingxing and Luo Yuan also pulled out their iPhones. I was completely stunned. 5 people rescued me. I have an Android. Lin Xia, can I come with you? I also want to go out and see the world. After thinking it over, I agreed, but on the condition that he stay close and follow my instructions. After lunch, we prepared to set off. We went down to the 3rd floor and found that the disaster victims had already been evacuated. So I climbed out of the window and launched the speedboat. The speedboat headed towards the mobile phone market. Xiao Xinxin initially looked outside curiously, but her expression quickly turned sorrowful. I comforted her, telling her not to think too much. Soon we arrived at the Bai Now Hui mobile phone market and climbed in through a window. The building was dark, so I gave Xiao Xinxin a flashlight. We started searching through the mobile phone shops, having a great time, like we were playing a game. Then, still wanting more, we went up to the 4th floor. Suddenly, 2 bright lights enveloped us, and a girl behind us shouted, "Don't move." Hands up. Hello, my name is Luo Ning, the captain of the 3rd squad of the official special operations team. I introduced myself as a nearby disaster victim looking for food. Luo Ning gave us some compressed biscuits and said he could give us a ride after the mission was complete, but I declined. They then left by helicopter. Xiao Xinxin exclaimed that she had encountered government officials, while I regretted forgetting to mention old Bai. But since they had already left, we had to give up. We decided to continue exploring and head to the 5th floor. Xiao Xinxin and I decided to search for supplies at the Silver Eagle shopping center. Meanwhile, Luo Ning's helicopter arrived above Jinding Mountain. Inside the mountain was a huge, self-sufficient steel base. It was truly awe-inspiring. Dad, could we open Area A to accept disaster victims? That way, we could accommodate 20,000 more people. No, the base is already overloaded by 100%. Opening Area A would cause a supply imbalance. Luo Dachuan also revealed that foreign warships were approaching our coastline, and the situation was serious. Luo Ning grabbed the new rescue mission, ignored his father's advice, and ran off. Xiao Xinxin and I entered the dimly lit Silver Eagle shopping center. At the shopping center, we discovered the milk tea stand had been completely looted, and there probably weren't many useful supplies left. However, Xiao Xinxin wanted to go to the 4th floor to look at women's clothing and underwear, so I had to go with her. She blushed and took 2 bags of underwear, asking me to keep them, saying my storage space was very well prepared. Then she suggested going to the baby and toddler section on the 6th floor, saying it was just in case. On the 6th floor, Xiao Xinxin happily looked at baby products, while I immediately started raiding. We then went to the 7th floor to get furniture. Xiao Xinxin looked at the furniture with a somewhat sad expression. Arriving at the 8th floor food court, we found several corpses piled up in the corner. I immediately realized someone was lurking there. I pulled Xiao Xinxin away, ready to leave, but heavy footsteps came from upstairs. A man holding a hoe slowly descended. I wanted to go downstairs, but I found another man with a knife coming up. I protected Xiao Xinxin and looked back. Not far away, a third man was chewing gum and sneering. 3 people from 3 directions. We were surrounded. The streets outside Jinfeng building were flooded. 3 figures were slowly approaching me. Brother, I have no food. Why make things difficult for each other? One of them saw Xiao Xinxin. His eyes lit up, and he revealed a lewd smile. My eyes turned cold. Since they asked for death, they can't blame me. Rat-a-tat-tat. Close-range fire. Blood mist exploded on the man's body, and he fell down. Thump, thump. The other 2 immediately knelt down, begging for mercy, trembling with fear. I looked at them with disdain, showing no mercy. Xiao Xinxin watched silently from the side. That night, Su Qingwei and I were coding together on the top floor. Xiao Xinxin was scared and sat next to me. At dawn, the code was finally finished. I gently picked up the sleeping Xiao Xinxin and took her back to the room. At 2 a.m., the 6 cards appeared on time. Today, there was an extra line of small text prompting me to choose the spatial gate. I immediately set up the first spatial beacon in the top floor room. I took the elevator to the 6th floor to test it. With a thought, a black hole appeared in front of me. I stepped into it, and everything went black. In an instant, I was back in the top floor room where I had set up the beacon. After checking the special survival reward card, the strategic submarine fragment, the next day we successfully debugged the building's monitoring and alarm system. In the afternoon, I took a speedboat to Jianan Building to find Su Feng and inquire about the evacuation of the disaster victims. Did you have the disaster victims from Jinfeng Building sent away? Yes. Didn't we agree that it would be handled by me? I sent Smoker. I nodded, temporarily accepting this explanation. Su Feng told me to keep a low profile. I told Su Feng about the authority arrangements for Jinfeng Building, and he accepted everything. When I went downstairs, I met Ding Liang and asked about the situation of the disaster victims. The disaster victims have all been sent away. They went to Donghua Building voluntarily. His words made me suspicious. He took the initiative to run to the distant office building. I decided to go to Donghua Building myself to check. Ding Liang watched me leave from the window. I drove a speedboat across the vast ocean and arrived at Donghua Building 2 hours later. The building was empty except for the sound of rain. I called out to the Yan brothers, but no one answered. I found traces, but they didn't look like the ones left yesterday. Ding Liang was lying to me. The disaster victims hadn't been evacuated at all. I guessed their fate. I was furious. I immediately returned to Jinan Building. I had to find out whose idea this was. I called Ding Liang up immediately. What had he done? Su Feng tried to smooth things over, but I directly questioned him about the evacuation of the disaster victims. I told him I had just returned from the empty Donghua building. Su Feng's expression changed. I got up and left to confront Ding Liang myself. Su Feng crushed a Coke can inside the room. I used an illusion to impersonate Su Feng and extracted the truth from Ding Liang. Ding Liang admitted he had dealt with all the disaster victims, and the hallucinations disappeared. I was furious. I kicked open Ding Liang's door, and before he could react, I grabbed him by the throat. Miao Polan and Zhu Binggang rushed over to try and calm me down. I dragged Ding Liang to find Su Feng. Su Feng's underling did something wrong. According to your rules, what should be done? While Su Feng remained silent and Ding Liang offered a feigned apology, he suddenly attacked. Ding Liang's decision to fight was partly impulsive and partly fueled by pent-up anger. He couldn't tolerate me treating him like trash. It was blatant insult. More importantly, he never believed in Su Feng's luck. He believed that only ruthlessness could secure a foothold. So, in a split second when I was extremely close and completely unprepared, he attacked. However, his strength stopped a millimeter from my throat. He realized he couldn't move. The next second, my dagger was already piercing his neck, and blood gushed out. Su Feng remained silent, his right hand, hidden behind his back, clenched tightly, revealing his anger. Put down Lin Xia. Is your big brother going to rebel? I apologize on behalf of the smoker. He risked his life himself. Since you say it's your fault, what about the punishment? One word, and it's over. Su Feng's face stiffened. He asked himself if he could bear the consequences of turning against me. The answer was no. So he took out his dagger and, in front of me, stabbed himself hard in the thigh. Brother Lin, is that enough? Seeing that I didn't speak, he pulled out the dagger, ready to stab me again. I stepped forward and grabbed him. My wrist is fine now. Let's leave it at that. I called Lao Zhou to treat the wound. I stood up. Chun Ting warned them to remember the lesson and then turned and left the room. Brother Feng, I don't understand why you're so afraid of him. Because he's a reborn person. All my 300 million worth of supplies are in his space. I left Jinan Building and returned to Jin Feng. I felt guilty towards the Yin brothers. What happened? I told them that the Yin brothers might be in trouble. After saying that, I felt a little better. Then I thought of Grandpa Bai, whose supplies were almost gone, so I took food and a walkie-talkie to go see him. The next morning, Su Feng in Jinan Building was awakened by the sound of a helicopter. He dragged his injured leg to the roof and met Meng Chong, who had come to pick him up, in the stairwell. Ah Chong, are you here to take me to the base? Knowing that the quota was limited, Su Feng was silent for a moment and called Miao Polan and Zhu Binggang. He ordered his men to submit to me and then was picked up by Meng Chong and taken away by helicopter. At the same time, my phone alarm went off. The surveillance showed someone had entered the 80th floor. I rushed to the 48th floor and found that it was the official rescue team led by Captain Luo Ning. Captain Luo Ning was the only one who had managed to hold on until now, thanks to Uncle Bai who had fought for a spot for me. Luo Ning agreed to try, and we went outside to discuss it privately. Luo Ning explained that the spots were precious and they could only try to get one. After thinking it over, I decided to accept. The rescue team prepared to leave. Uncle Bai assured me that he would do his best. I said goodbye to him and returned to the 90th floor. My companions surrounded me and asked what was going on. I told them that the base was full and rescue was temporarily impossible. Everyone was very disappointed, but I reminded them that the living conditions here might be better than at the base. After thinking about it, everyone's mood gradually improved and hope was rekindled. Luo Ning left for 3 days, and there was still no news about the refuge base. During these 3 days, I mostly stayed in the suite, watching movies with Xiao Xinxin or with Su Qing. My life seems like a lazy, stagnant existence, but I don't care. The resources in my space are enough for us to live comfortably for a long time. The water level has risen above the 5th floor. More and more people are going out to find supplies, and conflicts are escalating. Jinfeng building has become the target, but Miao Pulin and the others have already moved in. No one can get to the top spot. After lunch that day, my phone suddenly rang. The surveillance showed that people from the base had arrived at the helipad. I met with Captain Luo again. My spot is secured. Yes, you have to thank Old Bai properly. He gave up his generous offer for you. I couldn't help but feel a little moved. Then I told Luo Ning that I only needed to tell my partner. I went back to my room and only said goodbye to Xiao Xinxin. This trip to the base was only to set up a space beacon. It was my first time riding a helicopter. The noise was huge. Soon, I saw a huge hole open below the golden peak. Lights lit up one after another. The scene was very shocking. After Luo Ning saw me off the helicopter, he left. The guide gave me an identity bracelet and explained the rules. Leaving the reception room, the scene before me was once again breathtaking. The city was perfectly replicated. I arrived at the mission posting point and saw many people waiting. I found a kind-looking uncle and asked him, "Brother, so many people are waiting for missions?" "Missions are something you have to fight for." The uncle told me that the base's free supplies were only enough to survive to live well. You needed a skill. I casually asked about software development work, and the uncle said the pay depended on the job. The scarcer the talent, the higher the pay. Having understood the situation, I had a better understanding. Next, I needed to find the best location to set up the beacon. Suddenly, the mission posting point became lively. The large screen at the entrance lit up, drawing everyone's attention. The screen announced that the reward for underwater operations was 60 contribution points per day. Immediately, people rushed to the service desk to sign up. "Hey, I can't swim, bro. What can 60 contribution points even do?" Lin Xia told me that 100 points could be exchanged for a single dormitory room for one day. I immediately became interested. With a single room, I could set up beacons in peace, but 2 days' wages were only enough for 1 day's accommodation, which was not enough at all. I asked him if there was a particularly fast way to earn contribution points. Lin Xia said that I could donate items to exchange for contribution points and told me that the donation point was at L15. After noting down his number, I decided to go and check it out. When I arrived at the L15 resource donation point, there was a queue of people carrying their beloved computer consoles to exchange for contribution points. I was a bit emotional. On a whim, I pulled out a brand new iPhone from my storage space. This shouldn't arouse suspicion. Your phone is brand new. Normal phones are worth 50 each. This one is worth 100 points. My wristband screen lit up, showing exactly 100. I immediately used 10 points to get a base communication card and contacted Lin Xia. Then I took the elevator to my assigned L4 dormitory. As soon as I entered, I smelled a mixed odor. The room was crowded. "Hello, handsome, you're in bed 37. My name is Wu Feihuang." I politely replied, then realized this wasn't a suitable place to set up a beacon. I needed to find a secluded spot. Wu Feihuang caught up and told me the left-hand passage was less crowded. I thanked him and walked in that direction. A girl brushed past me, then suddenly turned around. She took out her phone and compared the person in the video. Looking at the video, she muttered to herself, "I think I look like the person in the video, but I'm different." I seemed to sense her gaze and looked back, but there were many people in the passage, and I didn't notice anything unusual. My name is Chun Ting, 21 years old, a teacher's college graduate. I've had enough of the filth and chaos of the dormitory. I have important information to tell you. Will I get a reward? I'm going all out. I guarantee the information is important. Even if I get kicked out of the base, I'll accept it. The administrator was finally persuaded by me and turned to go into the inner room to report. A few minutes later, 3 soldiers in camouflage uniforms walked in with a powerful aura. "Chun Ting, come in with me. If you have extremely important news, I guarantee it will reach the ears of the highest-ranking officer within a minute. If the news is important, what reward do I have? I only ask for a permanent single room. I immediately turned on my phone and played the video that predicted the natural disaster. The officer frowned after watching the video. I told him that the person in the video was on the other side of the base. My name is Lin Xia. I was walking towards the canteen with Wu Feihuang. Just as we were about to reach the elevator, 3 soldiers in camouflage uniforms stopped me. I was taken to the solemn and imposing combat command room. I knew in my heart that my identity might have been exposed. Report: Lin Xia has been brought here. Lin Xia, a resident of Dongdu City, said, "You are a reincarnated person, is that true?" "Yes, but I don't know what will happen in the future." The officer asked me if I thought I would be dissected and studied. I quickly denied it. I believe that the country would not treat its own people that way. The officer was amused by my words. They laughed and reassured me that as long as I followed the law, I wouldn't be dissected. They mentioned my video warning and helping by Lao, saying I was inherently kind. After confirming I wouldn't be dissected, I calmed myself down. Facing the big shots, I wanted to regain the initiative. "May I ask, leaders, what are your positions at the base?" After learning they were the highest-ranking leaders, I decided to lay my cards on the table. I overheard something outside the door. "I think I can help you achieve what you want." I cleverly deflected the question, implying I needed something in return. Han Dong saw through my cunning. To prove my abilities, I decided to demonstrate them directly. The huge conference table disappeared and reappeared instantly. I told them I could bring the item back directly. They showed me the mission objective, a machine weighing 2. I deliberately remained silent for several seconds, feigning difficulty, as if I needed to fight for my own interests. Carrying heavy objects was mentally taxing, but I was willing to give it my all. Han Dong immediately guaranteed the reward would satisfy me with his personal honor. The mission was thus finalized. Luo Ning was assigned as my special assistant. When he questioned me, I demonstrated my abilities once again. Meanwhile, Chun Ting moved into a single room. He was puzzled when he saw me appear unharmed. I returned to dormitory 189. Wu Feihuang was worried about me, looking dazed. "Hey, what are you thinking about so intently?" Wu Feihuang was both surprised and delighted to see me return. I snatched his biscuits and pulled him to eat. Wu Feihuang and I ate in the L4 canteen. He nervously injected insulin. "Can I eat now?" At this moment, Chun Ting brought out. She came over with the food and playfully asked to cook with us. After I prepared to leave, Chun Ting hurriedly exchanged contact with me. Later, Wu Feihuang told me that Chun Ting was probably after me. I smiled and didn't care. In the afternoon, I met up with Captain Luo Ning and boarded a military speedboat to head to the target waters. "Can you really bring back that 200-ton behemoth?" The speedboat stopped. We put on our diving gear and prepared to enter the underground research lab through the underwater tunnel. We dived into the water and, following Luo Ning's navigation, found the dimly lit underwater tunnel entrance. Following the guide rope, we navigated through a complex network of paths and finally arrived at the spacious underground research lab. In the flashlight beam, I saw that behemoth, the electromagnetic generator, which looked like a small building. "It's so big. Can you even fit it in there?" Without answering, I walked to the machine, reached out and touched it, then pretended to struggle. To Luo Ning's astonishment, the massive machine vanished instantly, while I feigned to stumble. On the return journey, Luo Ning excitedly called to report Han Shuai's voice. I could hear it from several meters away. Back at base, Han Dong and Luo Dachuan personally greeted us and led us to HLE's laboratory. Inside the enormous laboratory, everyone stepped back, and I again feigned weakness. With a loud bang, the The behemoth appeared out of thin air and landed steadily in the center of the laboratory. Mission accomplished. Looking at the machine before me, I knew a reward and a new identity awaited me. I had solved the base's problem. Han Shui and Luo Shui looked at the electromagnetic generator with great excitement. Lin Xia, on behalf of all the soldiers of the Golden Peak base, thank you for your help. Afterwards, we returned to the command center. Commander Han announced the commendation for Luo Ning. After Luo Ning left, only the three of us remained in the command center. Commander Han extended an olive branch to me. Lin Xia, would you be willing to join the base headquarters? I guarantee you'll get the fastest promotion. I politely declined the invitation. Commander Han was somewhat regretful, but then announced a formal commendation for me. I hereby award you the second-class Lower Star Medal and appoint you as the Special Operations Advisor for the Golden Peak Mountain Base. I was a little confused, not knowing the specific meaning of these two awards. Commander Luo smiled and explained to me that the medal was an honor that gave you unlimited contribution points, and the advisor was a status equivalent to the assistant to the chief of staff. My eyes lit up. Now I completely understood. This was indeed the reward I needed most. Leaving the command center, I returned to Sector D. There was something I had to figure out. I found the affairs officer, Donghua, and directly asked who had reported me. He told me it was Chun Ting, the girl who reported me, and then immediately tried to flirt with me. I analyzed her logic. Report me, get the reward, and then get close to me to fleece me. She really had a good plan. I had never suffered such a loss since my rebirth. How could I tolerate this? I went straight to his room. The door opened, and Chun Ting saw. My smile froze instantly. Lin Xia, what are you doing here? I didn't answer. My right hand instantly grabbed his neck, dragged him into the room, and closed the door. I lifted him up to my eye level, watching him struggle in pain. I'll give you a chance to convince me, or the consequences will be dire. That night at the Jindingshan base, Anqi tossed and turned in the dormitory. Chun Ting moved into a single room, which made me both envious and confused. I decided to go find her before curfew. Maybe we could share a room. Thank you, wait for me a while. He made up some excuses, but still wouldn't move. At that moment, I suddenly felt wronged. A single room had ruined our friendship. I turned and left, feeling empty inside. Back at the Jinfeng building, I realized that my mentality was off. My will to fight was getting stronger. Come on, lie down. Today I learned a new head massage technique. I rested my head on his lap. With the gentle massage, my anger dissipated, and I felt a long-lost peace. The next day, Luo Yuan's anxious voice came through the walkie-talkie. Miao Polan had a conflict with a soldier. I told Luo Yuan not to interfere, and then immediately used the portal back to the Jindingshan base. Luo Dachuan was waiting for me in the command room. He needed me to go to an armory. Where can I get essential supplies? I'll go, but I still have doubts. Is it a coincidence that Jinfeng building suddenly received disaster victims? I went to the information department to check the record of Su Feng's special approval for a single room. The person who approved it was Meng Chong. Then I checked the list of today's disaster victim transport operations. The name of the deputy captain was also Meng Chong. Is this really a coincidence? Su Feng is the director, Meng Chong and Miao Zhu are the actors. Who are they putting on this show for? Their purpose is not only to deal with me, Su Feng, but more importantly, to get supplies. I found out that Su Feng got a phone card, but I can't get through. It seems he has infiltrated the base. I have been giving him a chance, but he doesn't seem to accept my good intentions. Now he should come upstairs to negotiate with me. I should cooperate with your performance. I will do my best to perform. Footsteps came from the stairwell. Meng Chong led Su Feng and the soldiers into the room. Brother Feng, it's been a long time. Lin Xia, you know about what happened downstairs. I hope you can cooperate. Su Feng held up 2 fingers and gave me 2 choices. First, cooperate, and I will return the supplies. What happened downstairs has nothing to do with you. Second, do not cooperate, and you will be the leader of the armed forces. There will be no place for you in Daxia. I choose the second one. Arrest me. Su Feng was stunned. He was completely speechless. The police officer, unable to understand my choice, rushed forward and bound my hands with restraints. We went to the 6th-floor office. In the 6th-floor office, the officer rushed forward and reported to Captain Wang that the armed leader had been captured. Wang Jianfu, you're quite good. I wonder if Commander Luo will applaud you when he finds out. Upon hearing this, Wang Jianfu was stunned, then pulled a red box from my pocket. Opening the box, a medal dazzled him. He instantly remembered who I was. Report, I am Wang Jianfu, the captain of the 35th Action Team of the Jinding Mountain Base. Meng Chong thought to himself, oh no. Su Feng was shocked. He finally realized that he had seriously underestimated me. Captain Wang quickly found out that Su Feng was the culprit, but how to deal with him still needed to wait for instructions. Captain Wang let me talk to Su Feng alone for a few minutes. After Captain Wang left, only the bound Su Feng and I were left in the room. You gave me 2 choices, now I'll give you 2 too. I gave him a choice and also a threat. Su Feng's eyes dimmed. He guessed that my secret had been discovered by the base. He was completely deflated. He asked to say goodbye to his brothers. I retreated to the corridor and looked out at the heavy rain. Argumentation came from the room. Miao Poland betrayed me and came out, kneeling down in front of me. I straightened up. Holding a dark green, round object, Miao Poland sighed. I walked to the office door and threw 2 grenades inside. 5 minutes later, a huge explosion rang out. The office doors and windows burst open, and flames and smoke billowed. After clearing the dust, I handed it over to Captain Wang and returned to the Jinfeng building to adjust the security measures. After noon, I returned to the base and found Luo Ning. The afternoon's mission was to move supplies from the underwater warehouse. We drove a speedboat to the completely flooded outskirts of the city and submerged. After diving, I saw the huge underwater warehouse with shelves piled high with waterproof supply boxes. I told Luo Ning to go up first and return underwater alone. Besides the mission supplies, I also got a lot of perks. After finishing, I returned to the speedboat, feeling very pleased with myself. This wave of harvest was huge. Back at base, in the empty warehouse, I took out piles of supplies. Luo Dachuan excitedly stepped forward, shook my hand, and asked that old question again. Sir Luo, I already have a girlfriend. Sorry. In Luo's office, I applied to go out with the rescue team tomorrow. Okay, but please be careful. I'll let the rescue team know tomorrow. After leaving, I returned to the area and remembered that I had been wanting to treat Lin Xia to a meal, so I made a call. I waited for Lin Xia and his family in the courtyard with the snacks I had prepared for Lin Xiaoyan. Xiaoyan, this is Uncle Lin Xia that I told you about. I handed the snacks to Lin Xiaoyan. Lin Xia initially refused to accept them. Big brother, these are for Xiaoyan. Just listen to Uncle Lin. Lin Xia eventually accepted my kindness and introduced his wife, Yuli. At my insistence, the 4 of us went to the L2 city cafeteria. It was lunchtime, and there were many people. When I swiped my wristband, the cafeteria lady saw the symbol and was so surprised that she dropped her spoon. When they returned to their seats with piles of food, it immediately drew complaints from those around them. The murmurs grew louder, and some even overturned the food. Lin Xia's family was extremely embarrassed. Village Chief Zhang Mingyue arrived and, after understanding the situation, walked straight towards me. To everyone's surprise, Zhang Mingyue immediately gave me a perfect military salute. I reluctantly stood up and shook his hand. He leaned closer and whispered, asking how to explain. Zhang Mingyue explained to everyone that treatment was linked to contribution, calming the situation. I apologize, he said. I was being petty. It's normal to have concerns. Now, please eat with peace of mind. Thank you, Uncle Lin. I won't be polite. If I can't finish, Dad will. Lin Xia was momentarily speechless at his daughter's words. It turned out that too much food could be a burden. The unexpected little disturbance didn't affect our appetite. Lin Xia's family hadn't had a decent meal for 3 days. I could sense their curiosity about me, but they guessed my identity needed to be kept secret, so they didn't ask. Instead, I asked him many questions and learned that he used to be a famous psychologist in Jinling City. He said his net monthly income was about 300,000 to 600,000 yuan, depending on his mood, while my monthly income was just over 20,000 yuan. His popularity was frightening, but the atmosphere was harmonious throughout the meal. Lin Xia also became familiar with me. After dinner, I returned to Jinfeng Building and learned about Lin Xia's profession. I wanted to help him find a stable job because I thought of the Yin brothers, Yin Shi and Yin Cheng. Every time I thought of them, I felt a little resentful. A tragedy that could have been avoided was lost because of my negligence. I didn't want such a thing to happen again. I wanted to help the people close to me so that they could live better lives. The next day at breakfast, I called Luo Yuan and Su Man together and explained the situation of the base in detail. I said, I'm fine here. I'll go with Brother Lin. You move there, and I'll consider it. If you go, I'll go. If you don't go, I won't go. Su Qingyue also whispered, go with me. Su Man sighed helplessly. Sighing, I finally decided to handle the matter with my daughter. I used a portal to arrive at Base B to participate in the rescue work. I rushed to Shidua village on the western outskirts of the city, where a 6-story office building was submerged in water. Survivors were on the roof. Suddenly, a woman saw her grandson slip into the water behind her. Several soldiers immediately plunged into the water. I jumped onto the roof and went to the woman, asking her to recall the child's location. I had a general idea of the area, so I jumped into the water and quickly submerged to search. Soon, I saw a big, chubby boy not far away. I immediately swam over and pulled him to the surface. Everyone worked together to take the child and perform first aid. A few minutes later, the little boy finally coughed up some murky water. The rescue in Shidua village came to an end. 136 villagers were rescued, but the soldiers, accustomed to life and death, remained calm. The experience of the morning left a deep impression on me. I knew that the base's supplies wouldn't last for more than a few days, so in the afternoon, I directly applied to Commander Han for a special mission to use spatial energy. Deeply moved by the effort to collect underwater supplies, Han Dong immediately retrieved all warehouse coordinates and recalled Luo Ning to assist me. That afternoon, Luo Ning and I set off in a speedboat. Our first stop was an underwater warehouse, where we harvested a large amount of food and medical supplies. Next was the fuel warehouse, which I emptied in over 2 hours. It was already dark when Luo Ning insisted we return. On the way back, he was worried. Lin Xia, you're pushing yourself too hard. Take care of yourself, I reassured him, adding that I felt the day was very fulfilling. However, Luo Ning was concerned about future supplies. I can't worry about that, he said. We've tried our best, and we have no regrets in the end. After a moment of silence, Luo Ning nodded and said, persistence is key to hope. I firmly believed the rain would eventually stop and handed him a lollipop. Back at base, I unloaded all the supplies from my storage space, filling the huge warehouse prepared by Han Shui. Lin Xia, on behalf of the rescued survivors, thank you. These supplies are truly timely. After the rain, I made another important suggestion to Han Shui. We must pay attention to people's mental health. I recommended Lin Xia, a psychologist among the disaster victims. Han Shui noted down his name and said he would arrange for him to leave that evening. Afterwards, I found Lin Xia and told him that the base would be launching a mental health counseling service and recommended him. Lin Xia was very excited and sincerely thanked me. I gave him some work suggestions and then left. After organizing his thoughts, Lin Xia excitedly found his wife, Yuli, and gave her a big hug. Lin Xia helped me arrange the work, mental health counseling. It's practically tailor-made for me. Yuli jumped up with joy. The couple were excited about the future. Filled with wonderful anticipation and hope, I went to the Jindingshan base early in the morning. Commander Luo told me that the supplies had been transferred and that the transportation of disaster victims would begin today. Invited by Luo Dachuan, I visited the refitted warship. Standing in front of it, I realized how enormous it was. Walking into the cabin, I wondered why more ships had not been mobilized. Luo Dachuan, however, revealed the base's predicament. Even with more ships, the base was unable to manage it. Now, all we could do was pray that the rain would stop soon. I fell silent. I had overlooked the management issues. This suddenly reminded me of Su Wei-chan. After the visit, I called Luo Ning to continue salvaging supplies. By noon, the base warehouse was full again. Strangely enough, I felt a strange sense of enthusiasm, a desire to make my own contribution. Meanwhile, Lin Xia was restless all day, showing no sign of having truly thought things through regarding the work. If you agree to my conditions, I'll arrange your husband's job. I'm sorry, I have no interest in your proposal. My husband and I have something to discuss. Please leave. Lu Yang smiled and left, leaving behind a threat. Just then, Lin Xia's phone rang. It was Zhang Mingyue calling him to come to the office to discuss work. The couple were overjoyed, and Lu Yang was forgotten. In the evening, exhausted, I returned to L4. I planned to have dinner with Wu Fei Huang and help him find a job. In the cafeteria, I saw Lu Yang. He was having dinner with a middle-aged man and a beautiful girl. Young Master Lu, you can go and inquire about Lin Xia. The day young Master Lu destroys him is the day I move into your single room. Just then, Chun Ting's smile suddenly froze on her face, and her body began to tremble slightly. I also saw her. The young man sitting opposite her had desire in his eyes. My eyes turned cold, and I immediately became fierce. A whirlwind of eyes fixed on Chun Ting, the eyes of a demon. I didn't utter a sound, but Chun Ting seemed to hear a command from the depths of her soul. She abruptly stood up, ignoring her father and Lu Yang, and walked towards me, trembling slightly, like a servant who had done something wrong. Seeing Chun Ting approach timidly, I turned away with a cold face to get the food. I only got 2 portions, one for myself and one for Wu Fei Huang. We sat down to eat, completely ignoring Chun Ting as if she didn't exist. Ting, what's wrong with you? You know them? It's none of your business. Get out of here. I could feel that she was genuinely afraid of Lu Yang angering her. Pretty cocky. Tell me your name. I want to see what you're capable of. I glanced up at Lu Yang, or rather, just out of the corner of my eye, and grabbed his hair, slamming his head onto the table. Take off your socks and give them to me. Without hesitation, Chun Ting quickly took off her socks and placed them in my hand. Without a word, I roughly stuffed the socks into Lu Yang's mouth. Lu Yang whimpered a few times and slunk away. After dinner, I went to room 38 and entered the room. As I closed the door, Chun Ting's heart pounded faster and faster. I don't want to see this happen again. Why did you do this to me? I said wickedly, holding her up and looking at her flushed face. 2 hours later, I fell into a deep sleep. Chun Ting curled up in the corner of the bed. She struggled internally for nearly 45 minutes before suddenly screaming with a splitting headache. In the darkness, I slowly opened my eyes, then closed them again a few seconds later. Waking up in the morning, my fatigue vanished. I saw Chun Ting curled up in a chair, having slept all night. I gently laid her down, only then noticing that although the small room was cramped, it was very well organized. I kicked open her old suitcase. There weren't many clothes inside, just a pile of scraps. Her clothes were also torn. I silently returned to my room, took out a pile of women's clothing and shoes from my storage space, packed them into a cardboard box, and then carried the box to the door of room number 38. Embarrassed, I realized I couldn't get in. I could only knock. Keep these. If they're inappropriate, tell me later. I shoved the box into her hands and turned to leave. By the time Chun Ting turned her head to look, I was already gone. After I left, arriving at the research area in Zone B, I saw Bai Jishen, the big eyes Bai, researching hydroponic crops and artificial photosynthesis. I thought to myself, what's the point of being reborn with such a powerful advantage if I only care about myself? Since Han Dong and Luo Dachuan already know about my special abilities, I don't mind demonstrating more value. Thank you, Commander Luo, for telling me about your work. You've made a great contribution to the base, young man. Well done. I nodded and then solemnly asked, Uncle Bai, I have a question. If something benefits all of humanity, but I can't explain it, should I do it? If it benefits everyone, then do it boldly. Everyone should praise you, not make you explain. With Uncle Bai's encouragement, I felt more confident and continued to ask him about humanity. My honest opinion on photosynthesis research. If there were a technology that would eliminate the need for photosynthesis in crops, wouldn't that solve the problem? I frankly said I had a batch of such seeds and special soil that could shorten the growing cycle, but I couldn't explain their origin. I understood everyone has secret seeds and soil. Give them to me, Bai Jishen said. I'll give them to you after I've studied them. He continued, if they're really that amazing, you'll be a hero to all mankind. With soil and seeds I've never heard of before. Without further ado, Bai Jishen grabbed the things and hurried into the lab. Back in Area L4, I immediately sensed someone watching me in the shadows. I didn't need to guess it was Lu Yong, the one who got humiliated last night. He's supposedly very powerful at the base. If I don't cripple one of his arms today, I'm not Lu. 4 men surrounded me, pressing sharp objects against my waist. Hey buddy, do you remember me? Of course I do. By the way, how did your girlfriend's socks smell? Lu Yong, enraged, ordered his men to attack, but a few seconds later, all his men were on the ground. Looks like you should change your name. Give me back my girlfriend's socks. Lu Yong couldn't produce the socks, and the next second I knocked him to the ground. I crouched down and interrogated him, finally realizing that Lu Yong was just a conman exploiting information asymmetry. I warned him to stop scamming. After that, I returned to the Jinfeng building. I saw my girlfriend, Xiao Xinxin, sitting exhausted in the living room, as if she hadn't slept all night. No need to apologize, just be back safe and sound. After comforting Xinxin, I started thinking about how to use black soil and seeds to help disaster victims. Then, Old Bai sent word that the experiment results were in and I needed to come immediately. This was the most amazing experiment I'd ever done. The black soil and seeds far exceeded my expectations. Old Bai told me that the black soil could not only grow on its own, but also transform ordinary soil. The black soil in my hands could be transformed into tens of thousands of cubic meters of soil, enabling large-scale planting. I was overjoyed. It meant my idea could really be realized. I immediately told Old Bai my planting plan, and he agreed to fully cooperate. The heavy rain hadn't stopped, and life was returning to normal. During the stabilization phase, I helped the base with daily tasks and used my spatial abilities to save a lot of supplies. On the 5th day after handing over the black soil to Elder Bai, good news finally arrived. We reported to Commander Han that the disaster victims' planting plan could indeed be grown indoors. Elder Bai said the black soil and seeds could indeed be grown indoors. How could crops grow without sunlight? Based on the current experimental data, the plan was entirely feasible. I suggested finding a place as a test site first, and Commander Han finally agreed. so we began to fully commit. Upon learning that indoor planting was possible, the despair in the eyes of the disaster victims dissipated, and a glimmer of hope appeared. Commander Han also came to inspect the site in person. He was very satisfied with the well-organized test site, but he was still concerned about the safety of the crops. Elder Bai assured us that the crops were nutritious and safe. Commander Han immediately decided that as long as the growth was good, we should promote it as soon as possible. Back on the 99th floor of the hotel, Xiao Xinxin excitedly rushed up to us. She was extremely happy with the hope that the planting plan brought. I called Luo Yuan, Su Man, and Su Qingyue to a meeting. I reminded Luo Yuan to pay attention to the safety of the planting personnel. You can't judge a book by its cover. I also suggested that Su Qingyue go to the base to utilize his technical expertise. His eyes lit up, and he immediately agreed. After considering it, Su Man decided to go to the base with her daughter. Taking advantage of the situation, I invited Xiao Xinxin and Luo Yuan to come along. Since everyone was going to the base, I secured accommodation for them in the region. It would take time, so there was no rush. A few days later, at the L4 canteen in the region, Wu Feihuang encountered Chun Ting, who seemed to be in good spirits. He appeared preoccupied. After apologizing to Wu Feihuang, Chun Ting finally asked what she really wanted to know. Have you seen Lin Xia these past few days? At that moment, several people entered the canteen. One of them was Chun Ting's best friend, Qian. Qian ignored Chun Ting as if she were a stranger. Chun Ting looked embarrassed and silently returned to her seat. In the corner, Qian and her companion were talking in hushed tones. Peng Yan, who wore glasses, became interested in Chun Ting. Qian warned Peng Yan that Chun Ting had a very powerful friend with a lot of influence at the base, and that she shouldn't cause any trouble. However, Peng Yan just smiled and felt that Qian's reaction was unusual. He planned to report it before making a decision. I returned to the base and saw Lin Xia's message saying that Chun Ting had come to see me, and she wasn't afraid of me anymore. This puzzled me. Since I had nothing else to do, I knocked on Chun Ting's door, but no one answered. At the same time, Chun Ting was in the L4 atrium, warily looking at the man in front of her. Peng Yan, and Qian, I'm not angry with you anymore. You're best friends, it's nothing. Peng Yan's bookish demeanor lowered Chun Ting's guard. He suggested going to his room to call on Qian to talk. Although Chun Ting was worried, she followed Peng Yan to the room on the L16 floor. Peng Yan took out snacks and drinks, telling him to wait a moment while he went out to call on Qian. But he didn't leave, he waited at the door. A few minutes later, he opened the door again. Inside, Chun Ting was lying on the bed, having only taken a small sip of her drink. Peng Yan's eyes behind his glasses gleamed with a wicked light. He began preparing ropes and props. Just then, a rapid knock sounded at the door. Peng Yan frowned and opened the door a crack. Move aside, Ting, is that? Don't worry, I won't do anything to her. Just come pick her up in an hour. Do you think I'd do that if you didn't agree with Ming? Anqi was stunned. After Peng Yan finished speaking, she slammed the door shut. She frantically knocked on the door, but it was no use. Getting official intervention would only complicate things. Suddenly, Anqi remembered me. She immediately turned around and rushed out. I returned to the base and received a message from Lin Xia's. Chun Ting was looking for me. She was clearly afraid of me. So why did she take the initiative to contact me? Was it a honey trap? I knocked on Chun Ting's door, but there was no response. At the same time, Chun Ting met Anqi's friend Peng Yan in the L4 atrium. Anqi isn't angry with you anymore. She's just flustered because there are too many people in the cafeteria. Come to my room. I'll call Anqi over for you. You two can have a good talk. Chun Ting hesitated, but thinking that she was Anqi's friend, she finally followed. In room L16, Peng Yan handed her a drink and left under the pretext of calling Anqi. A few minutes later, Peng Yan returned and found Chun Ting lying unconscious on the bed. He was taking out a rope, ready to take action, when suddenly there was a rapid knocking at the door. Move aside, is Ting inside. Don't worry, I won't do anything to him. Just come pick him up in an hour. He's my friend. Don't force me to go find my brother. Do you think I would do this without your brother's approval? Anshi was stunned. Peng Yan's words made him realize that his brother, and Mingyi, was actually the mastermind behind it all. The door slammed shut. Anshi knocked anxiously, but it was useless. Disturbing the authorities was pointless and would only anger Mingyi. Suddenly, he thought of someone. Go find him. Anshi immediately turned and rushed towards me. I had just rushed out of the single-room area when I brushed past a cold-faced man. I knew he was Chun Ting's mysterious friend. I silently followed him. He was furious that Chun Ting dared to be so blatant. I had clearly warned her. Peng Yan had just finished tying up the unconscious Chun Ting when there was a knock on the door. He thought it was Qian and impatiently opened the door. Qian, don't be so. Who are you? I didn't even look at him. With a sudden shove of his left hand, Peng Yan found that he couldn't withstand the force at all. The door was pushed open completely. I saw the bound Chun Ting, and my face turned completely cold. Untying her, Peng Yan didn't dare to hesitate for a moment and immediately stepped forward to untie the ropes. He finally experienced firsthand how powerful Qian was. After confirming that Chun Ting's breathing was steady, I felt a little relieved. Then I asked Peng Yan to explain the situation. I only said I was lustful and promised there wouldn't be a next time. I just smiled slightly. Suddenly, I stepped forward and kicked Peng Yan in the groin with perfect precision. The kick was so powerful it crippled him without knocking him down. Peng Yan cried out in pain, heartbroken. He pulled out his butterfly weapon and charged at me. I smiled disdainfully and simply reached out to activate the binding chain. Peng Yan was instantly bound like a stick and fell down. You're just a cripple now. Don't force me. I'll turn you into a crippled person. Peng Yan realized my extraordinary abilities and even thought of superpowers. She finally gave in decisively. I withdrew the binding chain, got up, walked to the bedside, patted Chun Ting's face, and told her to wake up. Chun Ting slowly woke up. After her vision returned, finally, seeing the person in front of her clearly, I asked, "Are you all right?" Hearing my voice, Chun Ting surprisingly calmed down. Like a child who had done something wrong, she cautiously hugged me. After Chun Ting calmed down, I immediately asked her why she was here with Peng Yan. I didn't know her. She said she was Qian's friend and could help me arrange a meeting with Qian to explain the misunderstanding. She trembled slightly, genuinely afraid I would misunderstand. I pointed to the door. Standing outside was Qian. She rushed in a panic when she saw us. Ting, don't misunderstand, I said. I came to save you, but I failed. Just as I was about to go and inform her, I recalled Qian's anxious expression and nodded slightly to Chun Ting to testify for her. Chun Ting chose to. I turned to Anshi and questioned whether Peng Yan was truly his friend. I knew him. His name was Peng Yan, and he was rather lecherous, but I never expected him to do this. I turned to Peng Yan and warned him to take revenge on me, but if he dared to touch Chun Ting, he would face the consequences. I said, I dare not again. I took Chun Ting's hand and left. Anshi chased after us, calling out to us in the corridor. I told Chun Ting to stay and talk to Anshi, while I went ahead to wait for the two to reconcile. Anshi returned to her room with a cold face and warned Peng Yan that his impulsiveness might ruin their grand plan. Peng Yan realized that my influence at the base might threaten their plans, and his obsession with revenge deepened. Later, I took Chun Ting to L16. After attending Lin Xia's lecture, Lin Xia and Wu Feihuang came over. I thanked them for notifying me today. Don't mention it, I said. He's your friend, so he's our friend. Helping each other is what we should do. I nodded slightly, knowing in my heart that Chun Ting had already been added to my personal list. The atmosphere inside Mingyi's stronghold was Peng Yin was reporting to him about the conflict with me today. Boss, if we don't take action in time, we might be targeted by the base's officials at any time. And Mingyi expressed doubt about my strength, thinking Peng Yan's description was too far-fetched. He decided to send his henchman, along, also known as Miao Polan, to test my strength. Miao Polan heard my name. A chill ran down my spine as I read the words. This was the person he wanted to warn. Okay, I understand. Meanwhile, I took Chun Ting back to her single room in Area L4. Ting, come here. I have something to tell you. You're dating him. Chun Guanhong earnestly tried to persuade his daughter, saying he'd found her a captain for a special forces team at a base. Don't forget about Lin Xia from last time. Chun Ting decisively refused and ran back to my side. Her father, with a stern face, walked over and warned me. So powerful? Next time you see him, tell him your daughter is Lin Xia's woman. After saying this, I pulled Chun Ting into his room, not letting Chun Guanhong in. Chun Ting instantly tensed up. I spoke in a deep voice. I apologized for his reckless behavior and promised I would never do it again. I said that wrongdoing must be punished, and this time was no exception. 2 hours later, after the punishment ended, I stepped out of the room and saw a familiar figure, Miao Polan. He had indeed come. It seemed Mingyi had already taken action. Late at night, Miao Polan waited for me outside the base. I said I had important information to report and Mingyi had arranged for me to come out. He was Peng Yan's older brother. He told me that Mingyi controlled the LE equipment room and was plotting against the base. Brother Lin, and Mingyi might be a hostile foreign force. Hearing him speak a foreign language, I realized the seriousness of the situation and told him to calm Mingyi down first. Then I immediately reported to the base. In the command room of Area A, I reported the situation to Han Dong, who told me not to interfere. I understood that the base would handle it, so I returned to the Jinfeng building and told Xiao Xinxin to prepare. After nightfall, I was resting in my room at the base when I suddenly felt a strange palpitation. Then a loud bang ripped through the tranquility of the night, and the entire base shook violently. It was an explosion, and Mingyi had made his move. I immediately thought of Chun Ting and Lin Xia, who were nearby. Run. It looks like this place is about to collapse. There was another series of explosions, and the entire mountain began to collapse. The central courtyard fell into chaos. I couldn't care less about hiding. I carried Chun Ting back to the room and opened the spatial gate. The next second, we found ourselves in the luxurious presidential suite of the Jinfeng building. What happened to Lin Xia? The base was attacked. Can you look after him? I have to go back and rescue people. After saying this, I stepped into the spatial gate again and disappeared back to the dangerous base. I returned to the Jinding Mountain base through the spatial gate, and what I saw was a scene of devastation. I immediately rushed out of the room, with rubble constantly falling, but I had a shield card. The dormitory was in ruins, and cries of agony filled the air. I decided to find Wu Feihuang first. I rushed into the dormitory and found that the back half had been completely buried. Wu Feihuang did not respond. I was heartbroken, but time was of the essence, and I had to find Lin Zhan's. The elevator was disabled, so I rushed to the stairs. The stairs were riddled with holes. I leaped up, and a pair of huge black wings unfolded from my back. I flew to the upper floor and reached L20. The place was completely destroyed by falling rocks. I almost gave up hope when suddenly a familiar cry caught my attention. It was Lin Xiaoyan. I removed the deformed door and saw Lin Zhan's family. Only Lin Xiaoyan could still speak. Mom and Dad were hit by rocks while saving me. She was crying so hard that she almost fainted. I opened the spatial gate. After getting her to safety, I returned to the base and headed straight for the bottom of Area C to find Miao Polan. Upon arriving at Area C, my heart sank. The damage here was far more severe than in other areas. The phone rang. It was Han Shui. His voice was filled with self-reproach as he explained the cause of the tragedy. The error in the order of the arrests had led to this irreversible disaster. Even if the Jin Dingshan base could be saved, it could no longer protect anyone. I continued downwards in Area C, but reached L8 and couldn't proceed further. The space had completely collapsed. The hope for life inside was slim. I sighed. Even having witnessed life and death, I couldn't help but feel sorrow. But I had to compose myself and help evacuate the trapped victims. I worked for 3 days and 3 nights, and even with my extraordinary physical condition, I was somewhat exhausted. Finally, I returned to the Jinfeng building. Everyone dispersed. Let him rest first. Even the most important matters had to wait until he was well rested. I slept for over 10 hours and woke up. In the dead of night, Xiao Xinxin woke up immediately and gently hugged me from behind. Are you hungry? I'll get you something to eat. I got up and took out food from my spatial storage. Xiao Xinxin put on her clothes and sat down opposite me, watching me wolf down my food. How's the base? I told her. The situation is bad. The casualties are heavy. I mentioned Chun Ting, and before I could speak, Xiao Xinxin proactively expressed her understanding. I held her hand. Since she understands, I might as well be a heartless jerk. I'll take responsibility for them in the future. The next day, everyone gathered together. I asked Chun Ting and Lin Xia if they were familiar with the place. Lin Xia, my father. I shook my head slightly, indicating that I had no news of her father. Mentioning this, Lin Xia suddenly burst into tears. Xiaoyan, you have to live well for them. I think they wouldn't want to see you always sad. Lin Xia wiped away her tears, choked back tears, and nodded. At this moment, I stood up and looked at everyone in front of me. There was something I had been hiding all along. The statement that I was actually a reborn person didn't cause much of a stir. The only surprise was that Lin Xia looked astonished. As a reborn person, I gained a magical space like this. Now, everyone except Xiao Xinxin was a little surprised. I told everyone that supplies were not a problem. Finally, I announced that Luo Yuan was the head housekeeper and hoped that everyone could hold on until the rain stopped and continue to live. Recently, Luo Yuan had been working tirelessly on the renovation of Jinfeng building. I provided some magical equipment so that he could thrive. The power was restored, the elevators were put into use, and there were water collection points on each floor, greatly improving the convenience of life. Su Qingwei cooperated with Luo Yuan to build an internal broadcasting system, while Xiao Xinxin provided film and television resources to enrich everyone's entertainment. In short, everyone was busy during that time and tried their best to make Jinfeng building more and more suitable for long-term living. We need to develop a contribution point system. You mean there should be rewards for effort to prevent people from becoming lazy? I nodded in agreement. Luo Yuan immediately proposed his idea. Use collecting items for coins to replace the complex contribution point system. Brother Lin, how many seeds do you have for indoor planting downstairs? My eyes lit up. The gift pack has a lot of different kinds and quantities of seeds, just enough to separate different types of seeds. So we decided to use seeds as tokens. I asked Luo Yuan to develop detailed rules, and the punishment part must be centralized. Luo Yuan started working. To make the system more perfect, he consulted many people, especially Su Manda. Su Qingwei was also troubled. Now I see Chun Ting every day, but there's another one, which makes her very unhappy. The little girl seizes every opportunity to stay by my side, plotting how to get herself out of my life, like sneaking into my bed. Suma was also troubled. She disliked a fickle man like me, yet she understood that I was her daughter's guarantee of survival. In comparison, things were much simpler for me. Chun Ting acted like my personal maid, very obedient. She was also very polite to Xiao Xinxin, showing no hostility whatsoever. I even felt a pang of affection for her because of this. What pleased me most was that I could experience the joy of flipping cards 3 times a night, doubling my happiness. The days in the apocalypse were slow. I controlled the gene phone building, passing the time. Luo Yuan's wait-to-die system quickly dealt with those who didn't cooperate. Brother Lin and Miao Polan arrived, but his condition wasn't good. Still alive, I immediately got up and followed Luo Yuan to his standard room on the 35th floor. I saw Miao Polan, who was on the verge of death. I suddenly realized that out of hundreds of people, there wasn't a single doctor. I had only learned first aid. He was probably infected and needed a professional doctor. I asked Xiao Xinxin to take care of him, and I would handle the doctor's matter. I found a corner, released the spatial gate, and returned to the Golden Peak mountain base. The condition of the wounded in the L4 base area was even worse. There were no medicines, and many people collapsed. I shouted into the crowd, "Is there a professional doctor here?" Food and lodging provided if hired. Unfortunately, I couldn't find a real doctor for several floors until L13. I finally saw hope. A figure bustled among the wounded. As I approached, I realized she was a very young and beautiful female doctor. "Hello, there's a wounded person who needs urgent treatment. Can you come with me?" I said. I promised to provide stable accommodation and plenty of food. I believe no one can refuse. "I'm sorry, I can't take care of the patients here anymore and can't leave." I was stunned. At a time like this, someone actually refused my invitation. Indifference makes it impossible for anyone to guarantee food and lodging, let alone a stranger like me. "I'm sorry, there are many wounded people here who need me. I can't leave." His sincerity surprised me, so I compromised and asked him to check on my friend first. "My friend's life is also a life, and it won't take up much of your time." Pei Xiaoyu finally relented. I led him to a corner and introduced ourselves. In a deserted corner, I raised my hand and released a portal. Pei Xiaoyu was covering my face. I grabbed his hand, and the two of us stepped into the portal together. In an instant, we appeared in the presidential suite on the top floor of the Jinfeng building. "Where is this?" "We just traveled through space." After a brief explanation, I immediately led him downstairs. The sight of the elevator running normally once again shocked him. He arrived at the room where his friend was staying. Pei Xiaoyu composed himself and began to examine Miao Polan's injuries. "He has a serious infection and needs a lot of antibiotics, but we can't find any right now. Just tell me what you need. Whether I can get it or not is my problem," Pei Xiaoyu said impatiently, rattling off a string of drug names. I wrote them down and told him to wait for me for 5 minutes. I found a secluded corner, retrieved the necessary supplies from my space, checked them, and returned with the box. When I placed the entire box of medical supplies in front of Pei Xiaoyu, he was completely stunned. After confirming that the supplies were complete, Pei Xiaoyu immediately began surgery and ordered me to assist him. After the wound was treated, Pei Xiaoyu wrote down the instructions for taking the medication, handed them to me, and then asked to be taken home. On the way out, I extended an invitation to Dr. Pei again. "Dr. Pei, would you consider coming here? The conditions are flexible, name your price." Pei Xiaoyu admitted that he was tempted. The space here. The atmosphere was much better than the oppressive atmosphere of the base, but he was in a dilemma, unable to ignore the patients there. I, on the contrary, wanted him to stay even more. So I sincerely suggested that he stay and take care of both sides, while I would be responsible for transportation. Just as he hesitated, a familiar voice made him stop in his tracks. Sister Pei, Lin Xia, rushed into Dr. Pei's arms, crying and talking about her parents. Dr. Pei gently comforted her. "Sister, can you stay? Please." Pei Xiaoyan struggled internally. He liked Xiaoyan and was also grateful for Dr. Lin's kindness. Finally, he looked up at me and sensed my sincerity and the allure of the place. "Okay, I'll stay." Lin Xiaoyan smiled happily and asked if she could share a room with Sister Pei. I readily agreed, inwardly thanking the little girl. Then I had Xiaoyan take Dr. Pei to choose a room. I returned to Miao Poland's room, and Xiao Xinxin immediately inquired about Dr. Pei's background. Where did you find a doctor? So young and so beautiful. I explained that I found a professional doctor from the base, but Xiao Xinxin's eyes were full of disbelief. At this moment, Chun Ting came out with water. Her words were always unconditionally supportive. Sister Xinxin, shouldn't it be Dr. Pei's good fortune that Lin Xia took a liking to you? Xiao Xinxin sighed inwardly. Isn't it the same for him? It's just that the reaction is different. Miao Poland woke up. His physique was different from ordinary people. He got out of bed the next day. I'm very curious how he survived from the sea area, which was bombed into ruins. And Mingy dug a tunnel underground in the sea area. That's how I escaped. He escaped to the warship at the temporary shelter. His injuries were too severe. In the end, he took a gamble and came to the Jinfeng building to recover. I'll give you a mission. I'll take out a large amount of supplies and let Xiao Xinxin classify and price them. The list caused a sensation after it was announced. The disaster victims could exchange for supplies by working hard. In just a few days, the basic system of the Jinfeng building was formed. I am naturally the one at the top of this small social system. You can choose any person from the Jinfeng building. I'll build a high-quality security team. Luo Yuan was a little puzzled by this decision. He felt that the internal management was on the right track. Security doesn't need to be too much, but I don't think so. The heavy rain eliminated the weak, leaving only the ruthless. The disaster victims downstairs need protection. After making arrangements, I gathered the core personnel in the presidential suite. After a brief introduction, everyone looked at me. The theme of today's gathering is to celebrate our success and thank everyone for their contributions. After I finished speaking, Xiao Xinxin smiled and pushed out a food cart. Everyone's eyes widened instantly. The food cart had grilled fish, barbecue, hot pot, and various dishes. Pei Xiaoyu stretched her neck and swallowed hard. Lin Xia, I'm impressed. Where did you get this? Everyone, don't be shy. Not enough. Cheers instantly rang out. At this moment, Jinfeng building was filled with hope and warmth. Everyone looked at me, waiting for me to make the first move. Xiao Xinxin had already served all the dishes, so I magically produced various fine wines. Chun Ting obediently got up to open and pour the wine for me. I raised my glass and said only 2 words, "Keep it up." Everyone responded in unison. The night was brightly lit, and after the banquet, the place was a mess. Everyone was drunk except for me. I had to clean up the mess. I first carried Xiao Xinxin and Chun Ting to the master bedroom and settled them in. They were sleeping soundly. Then I carried Luo Yuan and Miao Poland to the suite next door. Finally, only Su Man and her daughter and Pei Xiaoyu were left. I settled Pei Xiaoyu in the guest room and then walked towards Su Qingwei. Su Man suddenly fell to the side. I quickly caught Su Man and simply picked her up and carried her to their own room. I put Su Man down in the room. Just as she was about to get up, he grabbed her neck and pressed his red lips to hers. Lin Xia, Luo Yuan likes me, so I have to like him too? Then I like you, what about you? She froze. In her memory, he had always been wary of her. Now, she was no longer hypocritical and met him head-on. As night deepened, Su Qingwei woke up and found everyone settled except for her. He was worried that she would catch a cold and searched everywhere. Finally, he went to his room but stopped at the door. He heard a sound from inside that made him blush. The world seemed to collapse instantly. He fell to the ground. So Lin Xia liked her mother. But why didn't he like her? Had her mother been hiding her feelings all along? After an unknown amount of time, the sound from inside the room stopped. Su Qingwei looked up again. Lin Xia already has sister Xin and the others. So can I be one more? There's nothing wrong with trying to win over the person I like. He encouraged himself in his heart. He tiptoed and silently entered the room. The moonlight shone on his back. I know someone has entered the room. At this time only, with Su Qingwei around, I thought it over and decided to pretend to be asleep and explain tomorrow. I heard Su Qingwei tiptoe to the bedside. He paused for a moment. Then there was a series of sucking and gurgling sounds. What the hell was he doing? He took off his clothes. The thin blanket was lifted, and a scalding hot body pressed down on him. I chose to fight back. The next morning, I got up full of energy and went to the French window to stretch. I turned around, but suddenly turned back. The rain had stopped. There was still rainwater hanging on the window. The heavy rain that had lasted for 50 days had really stopped. I excitedly opened the window. What are you doing? Didn't you notice anything different? Xiao Xinxin stared at me for a few seconds. Her face turned red, and she cursed. You pervert. I was speechless and told him to look out the window. He looked out and then screamed in surprise. The scream woke up Chun Ting. She ran over to confirm that the rain had stopped and then couldn't help but cry. I had to put my arms around both of them and comfort them. After a while, Xiao Xinxin blushed and pushed me to get dressed. The three of us went out and just saw Pei Xiaoyu coming out of the guest room. She apologized for drinking too much yesterday. The rain stopped. Pei Xiaoyu was stunned for a moment, then rushed to the balcony, followed by her scream. At this moment, the suite doorbell rang. Xiao Xinxin went to open the door. Luo Yuan and Miao Polan were standing outside. Behind them, Su Man and Su Qingyue stood at a distance with gloomy faces. I welcomed everyone in. I took the initiative to step forward and, without saying a word, took Su Man and Su Qingyue's hands and led them in. Luo Yuan, who had been excited just now, suddenly stopped crying and looked at my hand with a pale face. Sigh. Sure enough, I sighed inwardly. That thin veil of secrecy was completely torn off yesterday. Bless them. What else can I do? After all, the man they like is me. The rain stopped, but everyone's topic quickly shifted from gossip to worries about the future. I silently thought that flooding might become the norm, but I didn't want to leave. Suddenly, Luo Yuan's walkie-talkie crackled to life on the 18th floor. Something's up on the 18th floor. I'm coming right away. A short while later, I received a photo from Luo Yuan, a ferocious-looking strange fish. It looked terrifying. A sense of crisis rose within me. The timing of the rain and the strange fish was too perfect. We rushed to the 18th floor. Everyone made way, and I saw the enormous fish. Luo Yuan told me that someone had been attacked by it while fetching water. My alarm bells rang. If the rainwater was contaminated, everyone who drank it would be in danger. After everyone dispersed, I took a piece of pork from my spatial storage and threw it out the window to conduct an experiment. Xiao Xinxin and the others crowded around the window, staring at the sinking pork. My vision was far beyond that of ordinary people. A huge shadow was rapidly rising. My expression changed, and I quickly moved away from the window. As soon as I finished speaking, countless strange fish leaped out of the water. The strange fish attacked the window. I reacted the fastest and pulled the window shut. The fish crashed against the glass with a series of loud thuds, but the glass couldn't withstand the impact and shattered with a crash. Even more terrifying, the fish that landed slid across the floor and lunged at us. The girl's screams echoed through the corridor. The crisis had completely erupted. The rain had just stopped, and the building's corridors were flooded. Countless strange fish leaped out of the water. The monster fish attacked humans relentlessly, causing Xiao Xinxin and Chun Ting to scream in terror. Luo Yuan also dodged in a sorry state. There were simply too many of them. Just then, I moved, and a jet-black two-handed sword instantly materialized in my hand. Luo Yuan caught it, and my figure vanished from the spot. The next moment, I appeared beside the two girls. A flash of sword light swept across, and the strange fish exploded. Xiao Xinxin and Chun Ting looked at me with eyes full of security and admiration. Luo Yuan also cleared the path. Brother Lin Xia, what kind of fish are these? They're terrifying. I grabbed a strange fish, a corpse, and a live one, and left the building, a sense of foreboding filling my heart. When I arrived at the Golden Peak mountain base, I immediately smelled a strong stench of blood. Bloodstains were everywhere in the ruins. Then I saw a mangled corpse. What happened here? Suddenly, I heard chaotic footsteps. Looking in the direction of the sound, a group of ferocious-looking people were rushing towards me. They were zombies. The black two-handed sword reappeared, its sharp sword energy instantly slicing the front row zombies in two. I realized that only headshots could completely eliminate them. This reminded me of those strange fish. Were they all mutated? The situation on each floor was similar. I simply unfolded my void wings and flew upwards. When I reached a floor with a helicopter landing pad, I finally found the survivors. They were hiding on a boulder. Who are you? Don't come any closer. Don't be afraid. I'm human. I have some food and water here. The group breathed a sigh of relief and gratefully accepted the food. After they calmed down a bit, I began to ask what had happened in the base. What happened? Why did these people become like this? The survivors recalled that this morning, a survivor suddenly collapsed, his skin ulcerated, and blood was seeping from his mouth and nose. A kind person went to help, but was bitten. Soon, the bitten person also mutated. They completely changed and began to attack others frantically. Those bitten would mutate in a short time. After hearing the story, I felt uneasy. This thing is a zombie, but the cause puzzled me. I said goodbye to the survivors and flew out of the base to Area A. There were professional detection equipment there. I found the hidden camera on the mountain demon platform, stood in front of the lens, and waved my arm a few times. In the Area A combat command room, Han Dong was worried about the food and energy problem. The strategist suddenly reported, "Report. Advisor Lin is outside exit 3. Han Dong grabbed the tablet and was surprised and puzzled to see that I was still alive. Handsome Han, should I take a team to pick him up? No, it's too dangerous. There are too many monsters. Let him leave on his own. At this moment, the strategist noticed that I was writing in front of the camera. I wrote, "Open it. I can easily defeat them and go in." Han Dong hesitated. He knew my value and was also worried about the food and energy crisis of the stronghold. Finally, he made a decision and ordered Luo Ning to bring people to meet him and open the Exit 3 cave. I opened the cave and took out my double. I unfurled my black wings with my sword and leaped into the passage. I landed on the helicopter platform inside Area A. A large number of zombies roamed the corridor outside. I wanted to fight, but considering the cold cave might be under surveillance, directly attacking the mutated warriors seemed risky. So, I spread my void wings again and flew over all the zombies. In the command center, Han Dong and the operator were stunned, unable to believe what they were seeing. This was a damn Birdman. I led 3 warriors in an attempt to break through the inner passage, but there were too many mutated zombie warriors, too many Captain Luos. We probably couldn't get out. I knew that opening this door would mean facing dozens of zombies, but it was the only way. I checked my ammunition. Let's try. If it doesn't work, we'll retreat immediately. I opened the isolation door. The noise immediately attracted all the zombies. They rushed over frantically. The 4 of us fought side by side, gunfire blaring, but the sound attracted even more zombies. We rushed towards the exit with all our might, but as we rounded the last bend, my heart sank. We couldn't retreat. Our pursuit of speed had blocked our escape route. We were out of ammunition, and only 20 meters from the exit remained. The gang and the others drew their daggers and shielded me. I knew this was the last moment. I felt guilty for not being able to bring them back. Captain Luo, if there is an afterlife, I, De Gang, still want to follow you. I gripped the dagger, pointing it at my own neck. We'd rather die than become monsters. Suddenly, a gust of wind blew, and the heads of the approaching zombies fell to the ground. Lin Xia appeared. Lin Xia only said, "Wait for me," and then charged into the zombie horde like a god. "I'm injured. I'll take you to Dr. Jiang. Even if the hope is slim, don't give up." "That's an order. Don't waste Dr. Jiang's time and energy on me anymore. All our hopes are on him." "Okay, you big man, stop babbling." "Who said you'd die?" Luo Ning asked me anxiously if I had a way to save De Gang, who had been bitten. I admitted I wasn't sure, but I had a pill to remove negative status effects. I pinched De Gang's chin and made him swallow the pill. Before he could react, the pill had already dissolved. "Advisor Lin, what did you give me?" I told him it should prevent him from turning into a zombie. Then I turned around and led everyone back to the command room. On the way, I easily defeated the scattered zombies. I could feel the shock in the eyes of the people behind me. Back in the command room, Han Dong looked at me like I was a monster, which made me a little uneasy. "You have too many secrets," Han Dong said. "But it's good that you're all right." Han Dong said, "As long as I care about my country, that's a blessing." I smiled bitterly to myself. Where's my country now? I told Han Dong that the situation in the frozen winter region was terrible. Almost all the survivors had turned into zombies. Han Dong angrily slammed his fist on the table. I asked the research lab if they could detect the cause of the mutation. Han Dong said Dr. Jiang was researching it, but they urgently needed ammunition to rescue the other survivors. I accepted the mission and insisted on going to frozen winter alone. But then I remembered I could fly, so I stopped insisting. I left the command room and went to the atrium where zombies were gathered. I didn't want to bother clearing them all out, so I activated my ability and flew away from the ground. In the command room, Luo Ning was shocked to see me fly. Han Dong said I was an exception. Zero is an exception in a sense, he's a monster too. Han Dong suddenly asked about De Gang's situation. After inquiring through communication, Luo Ning received good news. De Gang had not only not mutated, but his injuries had healed, and he even felt stronger than before. In the temporary base's restroom, De Gang was lying on the floor doing push-ups. He had already done over 100. "You can't do that," I said. "Even though you're healed, you can't do strenuous exercise." "It's okay, I feel great. Better than before the injury." The nurse stomped her foot and left. De Gang, while working, pondered the reason for his changes. The most likely reason was the pill I gave him. Could that pill strengthen him? At that moment, the door opened, and Han Dong led the way in, followed by Dr. Jiang. "Good lad, you can do push-ups now. Your body is definitely fine. Congratulations. Your physical indicators are completely normal, and all your strengths have improved." Just then, I rushed over. Dr. Jiang's eyes showed surprise when he saw me. "Consultant Lin, do you still have the pills you gave the gang?" "I want to study the reason for his strengthening. Don't waste time on this." "My pills don't have the effect of strengthening the body." Dr. Jiang wasn't angry. Instead, he became even more certain. He said he wanted to talk about his conjecture. He mentioned the strange energy on the monster, which possessed intelligence and broke all theories. This energy is now hidden in everyone's body. When the body is weak, it will trigger mutations. Then, he proposed another conjecture about the two-way influence of energy. If the body can withstand the energy, it will actually help the host strengthen and even trigger evolution. I believed it. Currently, there's only one example, De Gang, which is too few samples. However, if it's true, I'll have to pay attention to Meow Poland when I get back. His physical attributes are top-notch. Could this be the so-called spiritual energy revival? It seems Blue Star is about to enter a new era. In the base command room, I was talking to Han Dong. Dr. Jiang, in his high heels, returned. Xiao Jiang, is there something you need? I'm here to see Consultant Lin about the pill the gang took. I wonder if there are any left. I nodded and said yes, and would immediately present his conjecture. If we could replicate the pill, perhaps we could artificially control the direction of the mutation. A thought struck me. Artificially controlling the mutation, this idea is very bold. I took out a pill from my space, handed it to Jiang Hui, and emphasized its preciousness. After finishing my business, I said goodbye to Han Dong and returned to my base, Jinfeng Building. I immediately called Luo Yuan and ordered him to check and isolate all those who were weak or had illnesses. Then I called Miao Poland and asked him if he felt anything unusual. I was wondering why, but his body seemed much stronger than before. Sure enough, this confirmed Dr. John's conjecture. I explained the mutation to him. A few days after the truth about the enhancement, several more people at the Jinfeng building successfully enhanced. I planned to bring the data to Dr. Jiang and return to the base command room. Dr. Jiang brought a small silver box containing a generic drug that could prevent malignant mutations, but the effect was not permanent. Just as I was about to share the enhancement data, Han Dong smiled and said that they had already mastered more. I walked to Han Dong's side and looked at the training video on the monitor. In the last video, the soldier threw a punch that formed a visible blade, leaving a clear mark on the steel wall. I was deeply shocked. Dr. Jiang handed me a box containing 5 finished drug products. Without your pills, we couldn't have developed this drug. Han Dong also told me to accept it, saying it was better to be prepared. I nodded and took it. Han Dong gave me a satellite phone, hoping that I could provide assistance if necessary. I felt a sense of belonging to Daxiao and naturally wouldn't refuse. I left the base and returned to the Jinfeng building. As soon as I stepped out of my room, I heard the sound of weapons coming from downstairs. My heart tightened, worried that something had happened to my companions. I immediately rushed to the corridor window and opened the black. As I looked down from the air, I was stunned by the sight before me. The building's exterior walls were covered with mutated water particles as thick as arms. Without time to think, I worried about my companions and immediately flew to the 20th floor, where the sounds of battle were coming from. On the 20th floor, I saw Luo Yuan and Miao Poland leading a group to defend against the invading mutated water particles. Where are Luo Yuan and Xiao Xinxin? I told everyone to check the windows. They should be on some floor. I felt slightly relieved, then reminded Miao Poland about the awakening of elemental powers. You might awaken elemental powers, everyone is different. Be careful. Just then, Luo Yuan suddenly shouted that he had noticed the water temperature was dropping rapidly, as cold as ice water. I frowned. Was the water about to freeze, causing the creatures to flee? I did feel the temperature drop sharply today. Was the natural disaster after the rainstorm an extreme cold? This thought made my heart sink. This was practically a death sentence for humans. We had just finished cleaning the water particles, and Xiao Xinxin and the others had also confirmed it. The building's sealed-off atmosphere was broken. I suddenly noticed anomalies underwater. Could it be that the water particles were coming again? I told Xiao Xinxin and the others to go back to the top floor first, and then tell Luo Yuan and Lao Miao. Prepare for battle. A deafening roar shook the building, and a huge hole exploded in the floor. Silence reigned at the opening. I immediately realized the danger the monster might still be underwater. Before I could finish speaking, a gigantic black creature burst out of the hole. What the hell is this thing? The monster's top suddenly opened, spewing out a large amount of corrosive green liquid. Luo Yuan froze. I instantly spread my black wings and rescued him from the danger zone. Don't stand there. Attack it. I charged at the monster first, my black two-handed sword slicing a deep wound into its body. The monster, in pain, its massive body swept across the ground like a pillar. Miao Poland narrowly dodged, seizing the opportunity to descend from the sky and plunge his sword deep into the monster's body. Meow Poland roared and punched the monster's head. Flames erupted from his fist. The monster let out a final roar, and tiny flames continued to burn at the wound. Old Meow, it seems your awakened element is fire. Old Meow looked at his fist. I could feel the unprecedented power emanating from him. He seemed to have a faint affinity for fire. Feeling no longer afraid of him, what was Old Meow standing there for? Did he think he was capable again? Meow Poland didn't say a word and suddenly punched the insect's head. Boom. The punch was explosive, and half of the insect's breath was blasted away. I exclaimed, Old Meow, your ability is much stronger than that guy in the base. I cut off a sample and put it in my space, intending to take it to Dr. Jiang at the base. The next day, I delivered the sample to the base and informed Han Dong and Jiang Hui of my intention to go to Jinfeng Building. Back at Jinfeng Building, Pei Xiaoyu came to my door, saying that he seemed to have awakened as well. He took me downstairs to the 24th floor. A child named Fei Fei had injured her arm. I'll show you. He stretched out his palm and hovered it over the wound. After a while, a faint green light shone. Dr. Pei, my arm is. It hurts. Congratulations. You've really awakened your healing ability, which is quite precious. Pei Xiaoyu was also very happy that her dream had come true and that her original ability suited her perfectly. Soon, the news spread, and Xiao Xinxin, Chun Ting, and others were very envious and wanted to awaken their abilities as well. Lin Xia always felt tired after using her ability. What was going on? I guessed that no matter what ability it was, it required the user to use it, so there must have been some consumption. And since everyone had just awakened their abilities, they weren't strong yet. I predicted that their abilities would get stronger over time. I also asked Meow Poland, and she did have a similar experience. God closed one door, but left another open. A few days passed, and the environment was changing as I had predicted. As September approached, a thin layer of ice had formed on the water outside the building. The good news was that as time went on, everyone awakened their abilities to varying degrees. Luo Yuan awakened his speed ability. To verify his abilities, he had Lao Miao conduct a test in the stairwell. The results were astonishing. Luo Yuan climbed 10 floors in less than 8 seconds, twice as fast as Lao Miao. Next was Su Man. Her ability was unique, which I called mind control, though her success rate was currently low. Xiao Xinxin's ability was the most unique of all. She could see all the spirits of the universe, like elves. I was initially skeptical, but after one test, I truly believed it. I saw water ripples on her arm, and the wound that should have appeared disappeared. See? The water spirit transformed into a shield, protecting me. I didn't lie to you, did I? He told me that all things have spirits, and now Blue Star is full of spiritual energy, and the spirits have awakened. Your little spirit is quite verbose. The spirits are male and female. Xiao Xinxin gestured and said the elf was very small and cute, probably a boy. Changed to a girl, no boys. Xiao Xinxin laughed and said, I'm even jealous of the elf. Then what about us? Wouldn't they see us naked? Xiao Xinxin blushed and said, elves don't have those messy thoughts, but that won't work either. They can see me naked, but I can't see them. That's not fair. Tell them special programs cost extra. My unexpected turn made Xiao Xinxin laugh. He even relayed his meaning to the elf beside him. Suddenly, a water arrow appeared out of thin air and hit my face. I was completely dumbfounded. Now I completely believed in the existence of elves. Xiao Xinxin laughed so hard, she almost fell over. Boss, another new monster has appeared. Do you want to come down and take a look? It made Luo Yuan specifically tell. I knew it was no ordinary monster. I dragged Xiao Xinxin downstairs to check. Many people were standing by the building's windows, looking out at the distant, frozen rooftop. A snow-white monster sat atop the building. An elf said it was an ancient creature, very ferocious and fond of toying with its prey. I nodded. Humans have special abilities, and elves have appeared too. What's so strange about ancient monsters? Boss, don't worry. If it makes any unusual moves, we'll kill it. This thing lives in groups, it's just a scout. It finds its prey and then notifies the family. Before I finished speaking, the snow monster in the distance stood up, and an even larger snow monster came treading on the ice. Then, another one appeared behind the leader. 10 snow stalks stood in a row. I called Luo Yuan over and ordered those capable of fighting to stay behind and the rest to retreat. No need to guess, this formation of the snow stalks was an attack. Miao Poland and her men immediately prepared for battle. I softly called out, "Coming." In the distance, the snow stalks charged towards the building at an exaggerated speed. Everyone, pay attention. The snow stalks possess ice and snow elemental abilities. Be extremely careful. As soon as I finished speaking, countless tiny ice needles outside the window struck the glass with a clanging sound, and cracks appeared. Behind Miao Poland, a person took a step forward, pressing their hands to the ground, and an earthen wall rose up, blocking everyone's path. Crash! Glass shattered. Ice needles shot into the earthen wall, and snow shovels had already rushed to the Jinfeng building. Slaughter these beasts. Miao Poland roared, leaping over the earthen wall to meet the surging snow cabbage. I yelled for him to come back, but it was too late. The ice was too thin, and he instantly fell into the icy water. Snow Village was already upon them, sounding the charge. The first one leaped towards the window. Just then, a burst of blazing red light erupted from beneath the ice. Miao Poland, enveloped in a huge fireball, shot into the sky. With a deafening roar, Snow Shovel was blasted away by a punch. The power of that punch even made me feel. Unexpectedly, Miao is awesome. Brothers, what are you waiting for? Charge. Since they want to fight, of course I won't stop them. The ice is thin. No, I said it's solid, so it must be solid. I uttered a single word, and the ice surface, which had been frozen for several kilometers in radius, instantly became as solid as a rock. Go, slaughter these beasts. Everyone leaped out of the window and engaged in battle with the snow hairpin. At this moment, the largest snow hairpin leader angrily charged to the front. The snow hairpin leader instantly froze Miao Poland's arms, and then his sharp claws swept towards his upper limbs. I instantly disappeared from my spot and appeared in front of old Miao. My black longsword blocked the fatal blow. Snow Forest's eyes, a flicker of doubt crossed my mind, but immediately a massive ice spike materialized above our heads. I quickly retreated with Lao Miao to the wall, tossed him back into the building, thawed the ice, and came out again, leaving those words behind. My figure barely paused before charging towards the snow hairpin leader once more. I had never used the 9 styles of ink splash before today. I would test it on this blood hairpin. First style, 9 drops of ink spear. With a crisp sound, my figure vanished instantly. Immediately following, 9 gunshots rang out from 9 directions, and 9 jet, black sword lights simultaneously slashed towards the blood hairpin leader in the center. This was the first time I had ever witnessed my own martial arts technique. 9 drops of ink, 9 black weapons. The light blocked all escape routes for the target, possessing immense power. However, the snow kick leader showed disdain for my attack. He gently shook his body, instantly condensing an all-around, flawless ice shield. 9 drops of ink struck the ice shield, turning it into powder that scattered, yet Yakina was unharmed. Such strong defense. My attack didn't even scratch its skin. The snow kick leader's gaze locked onto me, and countless hovering ice crystals rose around me. The next second, the ice crystals transformed into a terrifying storm that swept in. I immediately wrapped my entire body in black wings. As the storm passed, I spread my wings, and many fallen black feathers were scattered on the ground. Big guy, you've successfully angered me. I flapped my wings, wielding my sword in midair, and unleashed the second move, ink slash across the world. My figure instantly closed in on Xuechai's head. A dark, sharp light shattered the ice shield, leaving a huge wound on Xuechai's shoulder and back. Zhuqialing let out a painful howl, its massive body crashing onto the ice. What are you standing there for? Take advantage of his weakness and kill him. Attack. I didn't go after the smaller snow mountain, but silently stood beside the fallen leader. Lin Xia Xuecai is a tameable beast. If we can tame the leader and save him, your strength has defeated him. Healing him now might make him submit. I glanced down at him. If we can tame him, this will greatly help improve combat power. I've made up my mind. I crouched down and took out a white pill from my spatial storage. The leader's wound healed rapidly, and he managed to stand up, but judging from his appearance, he didn't seem to have any intention of submitting. Xiao Xinxin guessed that they might eat meat. Any kind of meat would do. I immediately took out a large piece of fresh pork and handed it to the snowman leader's mouth. He swallowed it in one gulp. I immediately felt a strange connection. I tried to reach out and stroke him, and he actually lowered his head and obeyed. Have you been tamed? Why don't you stick your big head out and obediently let the mistress? Touching the blood kick leader, he actually lowered his head and moved closer to Xiao Xinxin, letting her pet him. The blood kick leader ordered a halt to the fighting. With a howl, all the blood kicks immediately converged. Yao Polan arrived with her men, and, seeing the sled lying in front of me like a pet, froze. Designing a saddle according to these guys' sizes, Shui Quolan's expression was displeased, as if saying, "You actually only want to ride? Fine, we haven't even eaten Snow Clan meat yet." The Snow Clan leader wailed and compromised, but demanded meat. I readily agreed. Pointing to the distant Jinfeng building, I arranged for the Snow Clan to live downstairs as free guards. Xiao Xinxin smiled. I'm not wasting anything. I already have a mount and a guard, so I'll name it Bing Duen Duen. Shui Quolan blinked a few times and nodded slightly, accepting the name. I suddenly hugged Xiao Xinxin and jumped onto Bing Duen Duen's back. We were ready to go home. The 15 snow cabbages settled down in the Jinfeng building. Duen Duen was the leader, with 11 underlings and 3 females. Their arrival caused some commotion, but fortunately, Lao Miao managed it. Everyone just grumbled. A few days later, we found that the harassment from the small alien beasts had disappeared. They were probably all eaten as snacks by the snow cabbages. The suitable mount for the snow cabbages was finally finished. Old Miao immediately led his men to practice riding. Of course, Bing Duen Duen only submitted to me. Old Miao picked the strongest one and named it Bing Dan Duen Duen. Let's try it out first. I lightly jumped onto Duen Duen's back and pulled the leash. It shot off like an arrow. Wow, this feeling is so exhilarating. The speed is extremely fast yet stable. The only downside is that it's a bit cold. After circling back, I rewarded Duen Duen with a big piece of meat and then let Old Miao and the others start practicing riding. I smiled and asked Duen Duen to teach his little brother. Duen Duen roared, and all the snowboats shot off instantly. Several people were thrown to the ground by the huge inertia. Only Lao Miao barely managed to hold onto the rope and not fall. Huh, Lao Miao, are you even capable? As the sun set, everyone was finally able to ride smoothly. Lao Miao shamelessly asked me for meat to feed his blood. Let's go hunting tomorrow. We can get meat and train our combat strength at the same time. I agreed, which was exactly what I was planning. Xiao Xinxin and Chun Ting immediately said they wanted to go too. I can communicate with elves. If we encounter any unfamiliar beasts, we can ask you. I have water-based abilities. Although they are weak in defeating them, I can help heal them. I smiled and nodded in agreement, then wrapped my arms around both girls and pulled them into my embrace. With a smug smile on my face, we decided to set off on our sleds tomorrow heading towards the base to explore this frozen world. In the early morning, I met up with Miao Polan, along with Xiao Xinxin and Chun Ting. It was their first time going out, so they were all dressed up and ready. After getting ready, I carried them and jumped onto Dundun's back. Dundun started running, and Miao Polan and the others followed closely behind. If you didn't see it with your own eyes, who would believe that this was once a bustling city? I suddenly felt something was wrong and told Dundun to stop. I asked Miao Polan if he remembered the way back. Boss, I remember the way. I slapped my forehead. I forgot about this guy. So we continued on, but soon I heard a roaring sound again, like a large. The sound of machinery filled the air. I led the way, racing towards the sound for several kilometers before stopping. What I saw shocked me. A colossal spacecraft was slowly descending from the sky, causing the air to vibrate. Everyone was stunned. This couldn't be from Earth, could it? I guess the giant fish on Earth might be the work of aliens. Their technology far surpassed ours. Perhaps they could even manipulate the weather. As we spoke, a black dot flew out of the spaceship at incredible speed. In the blink of an eye, a small spacecraft arrived. The hatch opened, and a humanoid creature stepped out. Black hair, yellow skin, exactly like a Great Xia person. I reacted quickly, asking if he understood Great Xia language and what he wanted to do. But he didn't answer. The man just looked at me, then raised his hand and gently waved it. My eyes widened. My companions behind me vanished. The next moment, Xiao Xinxin, Chun Ting, and Dundun also disappeared. I looked around blankly. The world was turning into fine powder and dissipating. Then, water rushed into my nostrils, and the scene before me changed drastically. I was in deep water. This was my past life. I understood. Everything before was fake, a fantasy before my death. There was no such thing as Rebirth or card novels. After all, it was just a novel. Rebirth was impossible. My consciousness gradually faded away. In the pitch black, I slowly closed my eyes.